my dude. Let me get to the... And this is a long-ass book / chapter. I think it's over 1,000 lines when translated. It's long as hell. So everybody, I know Game Wizard has already put the house rules in the chat, so if you need to, scroll back up and look at them. They are important. It mostly has to do with how you ask questions, which is important for me. If I at all seem slightly irritable today, it's mainly because I haven't slept super well, not in my own bed. Doggo's barking. No, but we'll give again. Yes, please. The house rules are coming through now. This is kind of like how you conduct yourself during this session, please. But again, a lot of it has to do with how you ask questions. Because I know there's going to be questions, and this makes it easier for me to be able to see your question and be able to properly answer it. Right? Cool. Oh, excuse me. So, we're in book 5, titled here by Fagles, Diomedes Fights the Gods. We saw in the previous book, as we said, the truce erupted into war. We saw that Menelaus got a flesh wound, a brief little flesh wound. Agamemnon freaked out about it. He went through and sort of tried to rally the troops, but in doing so, ended up insulting a whole bunch of people. But then we kicked off. Odysseus got a moment where he scared the shit out of the Trojans to the point that Apollo had to roll up and be like, "Bruhs, did you not notice Achilles isn't here? Go at them." Which is great. I will also say, I had not read this article at the time before we did book 4, but there was a fascinating article I read that talks about Agamemnon's state of mind, especially as presented through books 1 to 4, and how it does seem like he's having some kind of mental health crisis, almost like a neurotic break. And it made so much sense. I was like, this explains, because some of Agamemnon's behavior, especially in book 4, seems really inexplicable. I'm like, how is this the guy that has led this campaign for 9 years? Like, no way they've tolerated this for 9 years, even with the social issues. It's just like, no way. Like, you cannot be this kind of unstable in your behavior. But it was broken down. I went, that's actually really smart. And the idea that this is year 9, Agamemnon's kind of had a mental break, explains a lot of his behavior. And also how in book 4, like the way he talks to Nestor, he accidentally ends up insulting him, which like when he realizes, oh, I made bad, he moves on to like Odysseus and his compatriot, and he kind of insults them in a very Achilles-like manner. And then he moves on to Diomedes and he sort of tries to imitate Nestor, and it doesn't work. And even Diomedes, his buddy, calls him out and is like, why do you say shit that isn't true when we know you can say the right thing? Like, what is going on? He has this sort of like compulsive behavior that makes him always sort of putting his foot in his mouth and doing the wrong thing, and then his emotions swing from like elated to terrified and depressed. And I'll have to link the article somewhere. It was super fascinating, and I think shed really good insight onto his character for book 4. But now we're going to move on to book 5. Book 5 is almost entirely going to be about Diomedes' moment of Aristeia. So I have notes for even before we start reading. So basically, as we say, from time to time, Homer's going to insert accounts of, we're getting kind of accounts of the general melee that's happening right now, because obviously everybody's clashing. It's a mess. Everybody's fighting. So Homer will put in these little seeming, I say almost like these little duels that are happening within the general chaos to basically like exalt the deeds, these sort of preeminent, almost extraordinary, you could say even superhuman feats of like one specific hero. And this is Aristeia, which obviously comes from the Greek word aristos, which means best. Like this is a moment of supreme excellence. And these preeminent deeds are, again, these are not meant to be just any sort of moment of greatness. These are supposed to be like some of the hero's finest moments, like the height of just how fucking badass they are. It's why for the Odyssey, Odysseus' moment of slaughtering the suitors is his moment of Aristeia, because it's just like, yo, man went one-man army. It's amazing. And that's what Diomedes is really about to do. And take it even further. Now, it's important to note that a moment of Aristeia may actually result in the death of a hero. And so, because we're suggesting a moment where the hero kind of reaches his zenith of being a fighter and a hero, and that usually means they will then die gloriously. So again, we're Kleos farming, basically, okay? And again, it also suggests that it's the qualities of the hero that makes these deeds possible. So specifically, Diomedes, like Odysseus, is one of Athena's faves. Those are kind of her two big personal faves that are fighting, and they represent different things in a way. Like, yeah, they're like, yes, Odysseus is a really good warrior. Nobody's saying he's not, but he's really known for his polymetis, which, you know, is his many cunning, his like superb craft, like just how fucking clever and smart he is. Diomedes is more representative of this idea known as bia, which means force, like just brute juggernauting through, which is sort of the other aspect of Athena when you think she's the goddess of warfare, right? So that wisdom, the cunning, the craft, the warfare, they're each representing kind of a different side of her, hence they are kind of both her favorites. And it's why we're gonna see in book 5, it's the power of this force, this bia, that makes like this Aristeia that Diomedes is gonna have the longest, the most bloody, the most murderous, you could even say, of all the Aristeia in the Iliad, up until Achilles eventually takes the field. Like, until Achilles takes the field, you just look at this and go, holy fucking shit. That's insane. That's the genius of the Diomedes Aristeia. Yeah, we're getting chonky here. Okay, Diomedes fights the gods. Then Pallas Athena granted Tydeus' son Diomedes strength and daring, so the fighter would shine forth and tower over the Argives and win himself great glory. She set the man ablaze, his shield and helmet flaming with tireless fire, like the star that flames at harvest, bathed in the ocean, rising up to outshine all other stars. Okay, we love the poetry of it. The star that flames at harvest. This is not like just a random star. This is something specific. This is actually Sirius or Sirius, the dog star. Obviously also known as Orion's dog. It's the brightest star in the heavens for those at Troy. Hold on here, I want to view the print layout, thank you. Obviously, you know, it's called the dog star because the name dog is now reserved for Canis Major, which is the constellation in which Sirius, the dog star, is. Again, it's close to the side of the constellation Orion, which itself is named for the mythical hunter. This is Orion's dog, basically. Now, Sirius is said to usher in what are called the dog days, you might say, of late summer. This is basically the harvest time. It's also a period of intense heat in the Mediterranean, and also ends up being kind of a sickly season for inhabitants. So, you know, we're setting the stage in addition to sort of evoking the feeling you should get from this. So we're talking a dude who's blazing forth with intense heat, with intense force. Amazing. Such fire Athena blazed from Tydides' head and shoulders, drove him into the center where the masses struggled on. Tydides, of course, think of the word Atrides. This just means the son of Tydeus. We mean Diomedes, obviously. There was a Trojan, Dares, a decent, wealthy man, the god Hephaestus' priest who had bred 2 sons, Phegeus and Idaios, trained for every foray. Breaking ranks, they rushed ahead in their chariot, charging Diomedes, already dismounted, rearing up on foot. They went for each other fast, close-ranged. Phegeus hurled first, his spear's shadow flew, and over Tydides' left shoulder, the tip passed and never touched his body. Tydides hurled next, the bronze launching from his hand, and not for nothing. Hitting Phegeus' chest between the nipples, it pitched him out behind his team. Bro literally threw the spear so hard and hit him with such force, the guy got launched off his chariot. Again, he is the dude. Idaio slept, abandoned the handsome car, and did not dare to stand and defend his dead brother. And not even so would he have fled his black death, but the god of fire swept him off and saved him, shrouding the man in night, so the old priest would not be wholly crushed with one son left. Now, the idea of did not dare to stand and defend his brother, we're going to see this a lot. That people will fight over the bodies of their comrades and their enemies. Again, why? You loot. You loot like crazy. I mean, it is admittedly a kind of video game moment where you kill an enemy, you loot their body for stuff. And, I mean, and also you can then try to ransom the body back too. I mean, to a degree, but that's not usually what would happen. We're going to see that in the case of fucking Achilles. But literally, it's you're looting it for stuff. You just want the stuff, and then you leave the body. A lot of characters ultimately die fighting over the bodies of dead comrades. It's insane. But high-hearted Tydides drove away the team and gave them to aids to lash both horses back to the hollow ships. And now, despite their courage, the Trojan fighters, seeing the two sons of Dades, one on the run, one dead beside his chariot, all of their hearts were stunned. But Athena, eyes bright, taking Ares in hand, called the violent god away. Ares, Ares, destroyer of men, reeking blood, stormer of ramparts, why not let these mortals fight it out for themselves? Let Zeus give glory to either side he chooses. We'll stay clear and escape the father's rage. Which is like, girl, I mean, she's sneaky in this regard. She's a little cunning because we know that she's already kind of amped up Diomedes. And do we think Ares is going to listen? Not the whole time. And so, luring the headlong Ares off the lines, Athena sat him down on Scamander's soft sandy banks while Argives bent the Trojans back. Looting a body would not be seen as defiling it like now. No, you're just taking the stuff. You're leaving the body, like taking stuff. It made sense because remember, there's no standing armies. Like, the body of a dead, like, higher up person, if you're on the opposing team, you loot the body for stuff and you're like, dude, that's a really good set of armor. I want it. Or like, that's a cool sword. I want it. Like, damn, look at that helmet. I want it. Now, the people with regards to, like, these are your friends you're defending, it's so you can give them a proper burial. And then if you're doing like the whole big shebang of funerary games, you often will give away like their stuff as prizes. We're gonna see this later on. So I wanted to mention the river Scamandros, or as it's called, the Scamander. It's sometimes also known as Xanthos, or the river Xanthos. Now, Scamandros was said to be a son of Okeanos and Tethys, and so the river, which is named for the god, so we'll talk about Scamander in this book, and we mean kind of the river and or the god, and you kind of have to guess based on context. It's the main river that surrounds the city of Troy. And obviously Scamandros is going to fight on the side of the Trojans during the war. I mean, this makes sense. He surrounds Troy. He's the home turf. He's supporting the home team, if you will. Each captain killed his man. First, Agamemnon, lord of men, spilled the giant Odius, chief of the Halizonians, off his car. The first to fall, as he veered away, the spearhead punched his back between the shoulders, gouging his flesh and jutting out through his ribs. He fell with a crash. His armor rang around him. So the Halizones, or the Halizonians, who are mentioned here, these are kind of an obscure people who appear on the side of the Trojans here in the Iliad. Obviously, they have these leaders, Odius and Epistrophos. They're said to be sons of Mekisteos. But, like, really, there's just, in terms of, like, where are they from? What's the origin of their name? There's so much debate. Nobody agrees. It's one of those other things that's a debate. The two most commonly speculated connections for the Halizones or the Halizonians are the Amazons, probably, I'm sure that's linguistic in some way, or the river Halis, hence the Halizonians, like maybe they're from around the river Halis, but it's never really speculated from they're from, so they're this kind of obscure people, but everybody usually wonders, like, man, that is such a specific name that sounds like it should mean something, but kind of obscure. We don't know. Bit of a fun fact there. Idomeneus cut down Phaestus, Maeonian Boris's son, who shipped to Troy from the good rich earth of Tyranny. As he tried to mount behind his team, the famous spearman stabbed a heavy javelin deep in his right shoulder. He dropped from his war car, gripped by the hateful dark. Then, as Idomeneus' henchmen stripped the corpse, Menelaus took Scamandrius down with a sharp spear. Strophius' son, a crack marksman skilled at the hunt. Artemis taught the man herself to track and kill wild beasts, whatever breeds in the mountain woods, but the huntress, showering arrows, could not save him now, nor the archer's long shots, his forte in days gone by. No, now Menelaus the great spearman ran him through, square between the blades as he fled and raced ahead, tearing into his flesh, drilling out through his chest. He crashed face down, his armor clanged around him. Meriones killed Phereclus, son of Tecton, son of the blacksmith Harmon. The fighter's hands had the skill to craft all kinds of complex work. Since Pallas Athena loved him most, her protege, who had built Paris his steady, balanced ships, trim launchers of death, freighted with death for all of Troy, and now for the shipwright too. What could the man know of all the gods' decrees? Meriones caught him quickly, running him down hard, and speared him low in the right buttock, the point pounding under the pelvis, jabbed, and pierced the bladder. He dropped to his knees, screaming, death swirling round him. Meges killed Padios, Antenor's son, a bastard boy, but lovely Theano nursed him with close, loving care, like her own children, just to please her husband. Closing, Meges gave him some close attention too. The famous spearman struck behind his skull, just at the neck cord, the razor spear slicing straight up through the jaws, cutting away the tongue. He sank in the dust, teeth clenching the cold bronze. Oemon's son Eurypylus cut down brave Hypsenor, son of lofty Dolopion, a man the Trojans made Scamander's priest and worshipped like a god. But Oemon's royal son laid low his son Eurypylus, chasing Hypsenor, fleeing on before him, flailed with a sword, slashed the Trojan shoulder, and lopped away the massive bulk of Hypsenor's arm. The bloody arm dropped to the earth, and red death came plunging down his eyes and the strong force of fate. So they worked away in the rough assaults. But Diomedes, which side was the fighter on? You could not tell. Did he now rampage with the Trojans or the Argives? Down the plain he stormed like a stream in spate, a routing winter torrent, sweeping away the dikes. The tight piled dikes can't hold it back any longer. Banks shoring the blooming vineyards cannot curb its course. A flash flood bursts as the rains from Zeus pour down their power, acre on acre, the well-dug work of farmers crumbling under it. So, under Tydides' force, the Trojan columns panicked now, no standing their ground, massed, packed as they were. But the shining archer Pandarus marked him storming down the plain, smashing the Trojan lines before him. Quickly, he trained his reflex bow on Diomedes, charging straight ahead. He shot. He struck him full in the right shoulder, under the breastplate's hollow. The ripping point tore deep, shearing its way through. Armor splattered with blood as Pandarus triumphed, shouting over Tydides wildly, "Move up! Attack, my high-hearted Trojans! Lash your stallions! Look, the Achaean champion's badly wounded. I shot him down. I swear he won't last long if the archer really sped me here from Lycia." Bragging so, but the whizzing arrow had not brought him down. Diomedes just drew back beside his car and team, and stood there calling Sthenelus, Capaneus' son. "Quick, Sthenelus, down from the car, my friend. Pull this wretched arrow out of my shoulder." Sthenelus sprang from the car, hit the ground, and standing beside him, pulled the tearing arrow clean on through the wound, and blood came shooting out like a red lance through the supple mesh shirt. And Diomedes, lord of the war cry, prayed aloud, "Hear me, daughter of Zeus, whose shield is thunder, tireless one, Athena. If you ever stood by my father with all your love amidst the blaze of battle, stand by me. Do me a favor now, Athena. Bring that man into range and let me spear him. He's wounded me off guard, and now he triumphs. He boasts I won't look long on the light of day." So Tydides prayed, and Athena heard his prayer, put spring in his limbs, his feet, his fighting hands, and close beside him winged him on with a flight of orders. "Now take heart, Diomedes. Fight it out with the Trojans. Deep in your chest I've put your father's strength. He never quaked, that Tydeus, that great horseman. What force the famous shieldman used to wield. Look, I've lifted the mist from off your eyes that's blurred them up to now, so you can tell a god from man on sight. So now if a god comes up to test your mettle, you must not fight the immortal powers head on, all but one of the deathless gods, that is. If Aphrodite, daughter of Zeus, slips into battle, she's the one to stab with your bronze spear." So, we still got beef with Athena and Aphrodite, which, makes sense. It does. Now, I wanted to mention this bit. If Aphrodite, daughter of Zeus, slips into battle, I can already anticipate the going, wait, wasn't she born because of Cronus? We're going to talk about this a little later when we meet a character called Dione. But it's important to note, Aphrodite's parentage varies across the sources. What's our eternal phrase? Depends on who you read, right? Homer here is going to clearly state her as a daughter of Zeus and another character, as opposed to going with the probably more well-known version of her being a result of Cronus's castration during the Titanomachia. So we're, or was it during, Uranus's castration, not Cronus. Oh my God, good grief, that self. You can already tell it's been a day. So, yeah, you just note, this is a different version of her parentage. Again, with Greek myth, pick your poison. Pick the version you would like to follow. There's lots of different versions. Tons of characters have different versions. It's just normal. Diomedes is feeling very stabby. Yeah, I think, don't fight the gods. Unless it's Aphrodite, then throw hands at that bitch. And part of this, let's remember, Aphrodite took Paris and whisked him away off the field. So Athena is feeling extra bitter about Aphrodite. She's like, you know what? You see that bitch down there? Throw hands. You know what? Because I'm sick of her shit. Which is sort of funny when we all understand. You think back again to book 3. I believe it is. It might be book 4. Actually, I think it is book 4, where Zeus is seeing Hera and Athena just sitting there with anime black clouds over their head, angry at having seen Aphrodite whisking Paris away. And he's like, guys, you already know Troy is gonna lose. Are you seriously that pissed off right now? We know Troy is gonna lose. I'm giving up a city to you guys, a city that I like. Come on now. And Athena's like, I don't care. Could the gods he tabbed a petition that he be punished or not? Oh, the gods he stabs. Nah. Because it's you went down there. You decided to be a part of it, even though Zeus has kind of said, mostly, hey, guys, you should kind of hang back. Give influence, but the moment you step foot on the battlefield, and because in so many ways, most of the time, the gods are not appearing to the mortals. Again, Athena has just said, I've cleared your vision so you can tell when there's a god. The humans in general, if you don't have that, you can't tell. The dude could be showing up to you as just a warrior from Troy, and if you fight them, then there you go. Dude, I get fair game. And if you want to punish them later, you could. But given this is a war, it does seem to operate at times on slightly different rules. In the same way, there's the forever known expression, all's fair in love and war. There's kind of this understanding of, you stepped on the battlefield, though. Could Zeus give the apple to someone chthonical like Nyx, Gaia, Hecate, Demeter, Persephone, such as not is going to especially go against them except Gaia or Nyx. No, because they weren't fighting over it. There were only 3 goddesses who were fighting over it. He's not going to ignore all 3 and just give it to some random goddess. No, it was very much, it's these 3 who are involved, who got in the spat over it. And they're like, well, which between one of us? Because that's specifically, they're like, which of us 3? Because the other goddesses who were in attendance at the wedding, mind you, you had to be kind of in attendance at the wedding. And if you weren't at this wedding, you're not involved. Like, you don't fucking care. Like, you don't give a shit. Could have such an ability harm a human like Diomedes? What, the ability to recognize a god versus a person? No. This is going to be a short-term thing. She's like, I'm only giving it to you now because right now you want to kill this one guy, right? Pandaros. I'm going to give it to you for a second, mainly because because part of why she's doing this, mind you, we told the story in book 4 of how Tydeus, his father, was also really loved by Athena. Like, she wanted to deify this man as he was like, and he had to die first, obviously. So he's dying and she's like, I want to ascend this guy to the Theoi. And, Tydeus then does something really horrific, aka he nommed on some dead brains, and she was so sickened by this, she's like, fuck no. And she's like, you know what? I kind of like his son. He's another one of my favorites. This guy has potential. Let me just try and make sure he doesn't do something fucking stupid. And this is also useful. Again, part of it is she is slightly kind of sending him out after Aphrodite, because I think Athena is very, again, clever and smart. There's a character who's going to come up, spoilers, the character's Aeneas. Yeah, he pops up here in the Iliad. And that's a son of Aphrodite. And she's like, if Aphrodite has already whisked away one person, how much do you want to bet she might come to do it again? So she's like, just in case, you want to spear that bitch for me? Mm-hmm. You can do that. And it's more like, I can tell if you're a god or not. Whether or not he sees their true, full, divine form, we don't know. But like, it just somehow gives him the ability to recognize that is a god versus that is not. And again, there's only going to be a couple gods on the battlefield. He's predominantly going to be coming across humans. And this is going to be short term. It's not something that's like, it lasts forever. It's just for this moment of Aristeia. Should Eris split the apple and given it to all 3? Nope, because it wouldn't have worked. He'd have offended all of them. It's all or not. They are very all or nothing. It's all or nothing. Did the constant hooking up of Aphrodite and Ares have been the cause for the saying all's fair in love and war? That's a really good question. I don't know. Because, I mean, they do get in trouble. We know the story of the bed, of the net and the bed in the Odyssey that gets told. I'm sure there's some link coming there, but I actually do not know for certain. I'm sure it comes from somewhere. I don't know if it specifically has to do with Ares and Aphrodite, but it comes from somewhere. Could be. Maybe, maybe. I'll leave that as a maybe because I'm not sure. What? Athena? Smart? I know. All right. It's like, and if you see that hoe Aphrodite, stab a bitch. Great. Moving on. Her eyes bright, Athena soared away, and Tydeus' son went charging back to the front line of champions. I want to note, this front line of champions, this gets called the Promachoi. Basically, you're on the front lines. You're the fighters on the front lines. This is a story that absolutely exalts the Promachoi, these people who fight on the front lines. So I think I had mentioned that in book 4, but I want to bring it up again because it really is a big deal that they go on the front lines of the champions. They get in the thick of it. These guys are not hanging out in the back. Unlike Paris. He's currently behind the walls. He's not even out fighting anymore. I'm just saying. Anyway. Now, long ablaze as he was to fight the Trojans, triple the fury seized him. Claw mad as a lion, some shepherd tending woolly flocks in the field has just grazed, a lion leaping into the fold. But he he hasn't killed him, only spurred his strength, and helpless to beat him off, the man scurries for shelter, leaving his flocks panicked, lost as the ramping beast mauls them thick and fast, piling corpse on corpse, and in one furious bound clears the fenced yard. So raging Diomedes mauled the Trojans there. He killed Astanous, then Hyperon, a frontline captain. One he stabbed with a bronze lance above the nipple, the other his heavy sword hacked at the collarbone, right on the shoulder, cleaving the whole shoulder clear of neck and back. And he left them there, dead, and he made a rush at Abbas and Paliaidos, sons of Eurydamas, an aged reader of dreams. But the old prophet read no dreams for them when they set out for Troy. Diomedes laid them low, then swung to attack the two sons of Phaenops, hardy Xanthus and Toon, both men grown tall as their father shrank away with wasting age. He'd never breed more sons to leave his riches to. The son of Tydeus killed the two of them on the spot. He ripped the dear life out of both and left their father tears and wrenching grief. Now he'd never welcome his two sons home from war, alive in the flesh, and distant kin would carve apart their birthright. Next, Diomedes killed two sons of Dardan Priam, careening on in a single car, Achaemon and Chromios, as a lion charges cattle, calves, and heifers, browsing the deep glades, and snaps their necks. So Tydides pitched them both from the chariot, gave them a mauling, gave them little choice, quickly stripped their gear, and passed their team to his men to lash back to the ships, smashing the lines of fighters now. But Aeneas marked it all, and oblivious to the rain of spears, he waded in, hunting for Pandaros, hoping to find the archer. Aeneas, the Trojan hero, enters the chat. Look, I don't hate on Aeneas in the Iliad. He's fine in the Iliad. I hate on the Aeneid because it's boring as shit. And the Romans were so pious, the moralistic, he becomes boring. So sad. Why would someone refuse to give prophecy like those fighters? He just didn't read it for them. Maybe they didn't ask, he didn't feel the need to. Maybe he was afraid what he would find out. I can imagine a father would be afraid to know if his sons are going to die. Like, it would be harder for him to have to cope with that, maybe. So the father just didn't read it for his sons. And that's kind of, which is sort of, I think Homer is also reflecting, again, while a lot of this warfare this is not likely how it would have been going in the Bronze Age, even in the Dark Age and to the Archaic Age, because let's remember the Iliad and the Odyssey are like three different historical ages wrapped up in a trench coat, even though technically this is set in the late Bronze Age. It's three different historical ages in a trench coat. What's going to be recognizable to an audience hearing this is the idea that people leave and you don't know if they're coming back or not. And then you get the tragedy of hearing both your sons who went off to war have died. Right? It's sort of pinging in on that very human tragedy. But we've now met Aeneas. Aeneas is here. He is a son of Aphrodite and a mortal man named Anchises. Kind of his conception, if you will, is really the primary plot of the Homeric hymn to Aphrodite. He obviously becomes the subject and protagonist of the Roman epic poem in the Aeneid by Virgil. Oh no, Aeneas is just too loyal and pious. What a horrible fatal flaw. Yeah, it's a deep reflection of how the Romans had like completely different attitudes than these ancient Greeks. Obviously not so much a spoiler since he's got the Aeneid. He will manage to survive and escape the fall of Troy. And following a series of adventures, he becomes the legendary founder of what will one day become Rome, which obviously then you will have Romulus and Remus coming in later. So, but the foundation is really laid with Aeneas. Again, I have no beef with Aeneas and the Iliad. I just have beef with the Aeneid. And that has to do, again, with the real cultural differences between Rome at that point, because it's being written in the 1st century CE. It's during the reign of Augustus Caesar. And the attitudes of the Romans then versus, these ancient Greeks who are, we'll say, the Archaic Age, looking back also at the Dark and the Bronze Age and sort of how they were viewing it. So different cultures, different attitudes towards their heroes. I know when I did Stories from Styx, when we talked about Achilles' lullaby, I said the big thing with Achilles, everybody thinks of, oh, he's invulnerable except for his heel. That's a thing that comes from Rome. It's as far as we know, there's no Greek precedent for it. It's invented by Statius, for all we know, which could reflect this idea of how do I make, like, even more so, make it so impressive that Achilles was killed. Like, oh yeah, he was quick. They were wearing very different armor. It was a very heavy, like heavily armored infantry, which was kind of how the Greeks were fighting even in that kind of Archaic Age. You can look at the Greco-Persian Wars as a good example. Which of course are after the Archaic Age, but the army tactics didn't change that much. Rome, while they were, yes, armored, they were a little more mobile, but of course they do like being in formation. But if you take someone who's incredibly quick, it's like, well, that's one thing, but oh, he was invulnerable, safe to his heel, and Paris got the shot. Yes, aided by Apollo, but he got the shot. Like, you're kind of then bolstering the aura of Paris, this Trojan prince, this character, and also you're making the Greeks be like, well, that's why Achilles was so insane, and that's how he killed Hector and all this stuff. And I'm like, you could view it that way. There's, again, lots of analysis you can roll down with that. Do you know how many generations there were between Aeneas down to Romulus and Remus? Quite a few, because if you're looking at Aeneas, that's late Bronze Age. This is like pre-collapse Bronze Age. And then a whole bunch of time until you hit Romulus and Remus. They then have, after Romulus and Remus, they have, I believe, like 12 kings. And then you start hitting the age of the Republic being born. They throw out their final king. So centuries, genuine centuries. A good long while. I don't remember the exact number of generations, but it's a while. Somebody could probably, it was 7 kings, but historically it was definitely more. Is it only 7? Why did I think it was 12? The number 12 has always been in my head. Maybe it's because it's a number that pops up so often in mythology. So 7 kings, that also sounds right. 7 was also sort of a mystical number, if you will. So yeah, like you have X number of kings after the whole Romulus and Remus thing. Then you hit the Republic because they have the one bad king. The final bad king, we'll say, who they throw out. 7 kings for over 400 years. Yeah, that sounds like bullshit. I bet there's, I bet this comes down to who's writing and which Roman historian is writing which. And again, these kings are almost kind of almost more legendary than historical because again, you're in that era where we're just sort of like, question marks. Did the Romans believe they were descended from Troy before the Aeneid, or was that a Virgil original? I think the foundation of that belief was already there, but that's actually a really good question. Hold on here. Let me check, because I think that idea was there, but I could be wrong. It could just be that Virgil... I was gonna say no. Like the idea was the foundation for that idea was already laid. Because I will say, Homer knows that Aeneas survives Troy. I think in the Iliad he mentions a little bit of how he will eventually rule over the Trojans. It might even be in this book. I can't quite remember. Yeah, bless my Google search. I just wanted to double check. And there are some historians who talk about the idea of Aeneas, but they're writing after Virgil. Virgil kind of did almost what Homer did, where like the story was already there somewhere in like the folk consciousness and the folk memory, but Virgil made it famous. He made the most famed account of it, and at least one of the earliest written accounts and most detailed written accounts of it. 6 kings after Romulus. Maybe that's where I got 12. Okay. I was gonna say, I'm not doubting how many kings there were. I just, for some reason, the number 12 popped in my head. Why? I don't know. No, he didn't invent the idea, but he made it famous. Kind of like, we all knew the story of the fall of Troy and the Trojan horse, but the most famous complete version of the night of the sacking of Troy comes to us from Virgil's Aeneid, book 2. This is where you also get the character of Sinon, who is called Sinon in Nolan's adaptation of the Odyssey, because pronunciation's all over the place. But that's the most famous version of that character that we can think of. But he was mentioned prior. Like, we know he existed in the mythological tradition prior, just like the most complete and well-known version comes from this work. Same idea with Virgil. He made the defining version, the sort of definite version. And that's what you get with Aeneas. But again, I'm pretty sure Homer does mention here in the Iliad, and again, it might even be in this book, that Aeneas is not only going to survive Troy, but he's going to rule basically the Trojans who are left over. Essentially the small gaggle who get out with them. Because anybody who doesn't get out of the city with him during the sack of Troy is dead or enslaved. Like, there's no other option for you. Unless you are the small gaggle that get out with Aeneas, you have a really sad fate awaiting you, which we will talk about, especially when we get to the final book, when we get to the laments done by Andromache and Hecuba over at Hector's funeral, because they are clearly looking forward at where this war is going to end and how there's really only enslavement in their future. 15 generations and 7 kings from the founding confused my dates. Look, again, at that point, you're in almost myth territory in a way. So much of it never makes sense. But yes, no, that's a good question. Because sometimes we don't know where these ideas originate, and sometimes we go, well, that's the first written version. Maybe it was there beforehand. Thankfully, we do know Aeneas existed, and that idea that he's going to rule Trojans and all of that was already there. So it does seem that that was already there. Just hadn't been written down in an epic. But yes, Aeneas has entered the chat. Where the heck was I? Oh yeah, he's looking for an archer. Rusty in my Rome myths. Yeah, Rome foundation myths, there's only really the big two, which is Aeneas and Romulus and Remus, which includes the rape of the Sabine women as a part of it. And then it's kind of roughshod for a bit. So there you go. Enjoy the new kitty. Stephanie, I expect photos in the Discord of the new kitty. I want pictures of the new kitty cat, because priorities. Small fluffy creatures. Anyway. He's looking for Pandarus. Find him he did, Lycaon's skilled, fearless son, and went right up and challenged him to his face. Pandarus, where's your bow, your winged arrows, your archer's glory? No Trojan your rival here, no Lycian can claim to be your better, no. So up with you now! Lift your hands to Zeus! You whip an arrow against that man, whoever he is, who routs us, wreaking havoc against us, cutting the legs from under squads of good, brave men. Unless it's a god who smolders at our troops, enraged at a right we failed. When a god's enraged, there's thunder at our heads. Which does mean Aeneas is like, I can't tell who that is, and if that isn't, I don't know who that is. He's really scary. He's scary enough he could be a god that maybe we pissed off. At which point, we are so fucked. Honestly, Aeneas, that is a valid thought. And Lycaon's shining son took up the challenge. Aeneas, counselor of the Trojans armed in bronze. He looks like Tydeus' son to me in every way. I know his shield, the hollow eyes of his visor, his team. I've watched them closely, and still, I could never swear he's not a god. But if he's the man I think he is, Tydeus' gallant son, he rages so with a god beside him. Not alone, no. A god with his shoulders shrouded round in cloud, who deflects my shaft to a less mortal spot. I already whipped an arrow into him, caught him square in the right shoulder too, just where the breastplate leaves the armpit bare. And I thought I'd sent him down to the house of death. But I've not laid him low. So it is some god rampaging, and here I am, no chariot, no team to speed me on, but back in Lycaon's halls are 11 war cars, beauties, all fresh from the smith and fire new, and blankets spread across them, and beside each a brace of stallions, standing poised and pawing, chomping their oats in barley glistening white. Over and over, father, the old spearman Lycaon urged me, setting out from his well-built halls. Take those teams and cars, he told me. Mount up, lead the Trojans into the jolting shocks of battle. But would I listen? So much better if I had. I'd just spare my teams. They'd never starve. For fodder, crammed with the fighters, bred to eat their fill. So I left them there. I made it to Troy on foot, trusting my bow and arrows, and a lot of good I was to get from them. Already I've let fly at 2 of their best men, Diomedes and Menelaus. I've hit them both, and the blood gushed from both, direct hits. But I only roused their fury. I'm in danger. Very much so. And this is kind of an interesting attitude of how again, he's an archer, but you were also expected to be able to at least fight with a spear, get out in the front. The fact that he can't and he can only hang back, I mean, he's ashamed of himself for this. He's like, I didn't listen, and I should have, because I just trusted, oh, I'm an archer, I'll be amazing. No, being just an archer is frankly not enough. Again, we're pointing at Paris, but that's fine. I mean, depending on who you read and listen to, Diomedes is granted apotheosis, so it is kind of like pissed God and waited. Yes, but that's going to come much, much later. He's gonna get that ascent to the Theoi that his father didn't get. Yeah, Panarius, I'm in danger, Diomedes. I am the danger. Very much, and they're right. And they're also right in recognizing he does kind of have a god on his side. Obviously, Athena is helping him out here. She's giving him a good divine boost. But in addition, that's part of the recognition of the Odysseia, that it's just like, this guy's inhuman. There's something that is not normal about this, and you should be fucking terrified. And he's also right. I mean, this is the same archer who we know in book 4 hit Menelaus and gave him the flesh wound. But could have killed him. He's like, I've hit 2 of their best guys, and these should have been deadly shots. All I've done was piss them off. He's doubting his own ability. He's like, something's going on, and it's not good for me. Was he already semi-immortal by this point? No, there's no such thing as semi-immortal. You are mortal, or you're not. You're mortal, or you're a god. There's no semi. There's no halfway there. Question, in the case of Menelaus, was he in a berserker mode? I asked because in this translation it seems like he just goes as he's hit. Menelaus? No. Well, no, because Menelaus gets hit, and then they realize it's not as bad as everybody thought. Everybody starts panicking, and he's like, oh, it's ultimately just a flesh wound. We talked about how the barbs of the arrow were still sticking out, so it really didn't get that deep in, so he could pull it out. It was just a flesh wound. It's Agamemnon who, panics and freaks out to the point that Menelaus is like, dude, you're scaring the army. Calm down, I'm fine. I'm okay. It's not that big a deal. It was just a flesh wound. Yeah, I bled and that freaked everybody out, but it's not that bad. It's not that bad. Bro, I need you to calm down. You're freaking everyone out. And that's, again, Athena's kind of going in. She goes, I'm gonna just let that not hit him in a vital spot. And in the same here, we're seeing that, Diomedes is getting hit. It seems like kind of in this area. Again, in the shoulder where the breastplate and whatever maybe shoulder bit he had, there's the slight gap in the armor. And he's like, dude, I should have taken him out. Maybe he was aiming for some sort of artery or something. He's like, I should have taken him out. All I've done is piss him off. Now, at this point, we know that Diomedes, 1, is just frankly built a little different. But 2, Athena, he's just like, yank it out. I'm pissed off. And then Athena's like, and by the way, let's juice up your stats. But no, that's a good question. I mean, Menelaus is obviously very angry when he starts his duel at Paris. That's before he gets injured. Once he gets injured, we kind of take him off and we're treating his injuries. Because he still has a flesh wound and you want to make sure it doesn't get infected or anything. Yeah, I don't have time to bleed. In the words of K-pop demon hunters, bleeding isn't in my blood. Right? It's I don't have time to be hit. Yeah, and Diomedes, again, we are one-man armying. This man is an 80s action hero, okay? This is the Terminator. He's coming through. Get out of the way. Granted, later when you have the T1, T1000 or whatever, the one that can change shape, that we'll think of that as Achilles. When he hits the field, you can't even get out of his way. He'll still hunt you down. At least with Diomedes, you can maybe get out of his way, unless he has just somehow laser focused on you. Which, again, I find slightly hilarious. I'm trying to see where my next note is. We're not quite there yet. We're good. Master Chief in Halo, but lore accurate. I'll take your word for it. I never played Halo. I'm vaguely aware of it, but video games, not my thing. But good question. What bad luck to snatch this curved bow off its peg that day. I marched my Trojans hard to your lovely town of Troy. But please, Prince Hector. I'm sorry, no, your lovely town of Troy, to please, Prince Hector. But if I get home again and I set my eyes on my native land, my wife and my fine house with the high vaulting roof, let some stranger cut my head off then and there, if I don't smash this bow and fling it in the fire. The gear I packed is worthless as the wind. Which again kind of tells you how they ultimately viewed people who were purely archers and could not also fight in other ways and weren't gods. Like, as a human, bitch, you better know how to use a spear at least. Like, come on now. Aeneas, the Trojan captain, checked him sharply. No talk of turning for home. No turning the tide till we wheel and face this man with team and car and fight it out with weapons hand to hand. Come up with you now, climb aboard my chariot, so you can see the breed of Tross's team, their flair for their own terrain as they gallop back and forth, one moment in flight, the next in hot pursuit. They'll sweep us back to the city, back to safety, as Zeus's hands, Tydeus' son, the glory once again. Quick, take up the whip and glittering reins. I'll dismount from the car and fight on foot, or you engage the man and leave the team for me. So Aeneas is like, he's like, yeah, no, shut up, get in my car, we're gonna fight. So either you drive and I fight, or if you really want to, I'll drive and you can fight. Because there's always a driver. There's always a chariot driver, as well as the dude who's basically using it as a taxi cab. Again, this is not how chariots would have been used in the Bronze Age. Like, this is clearly coming from a folk memory where they understood chariots were used, they had no idea how they were used. They are glorified taxi cabs in this story. I will say, see the breed of Tross's team. This is something, hold on to, it's going to get mentioned again. I realized I put the note for later because it's tying to another story. But these are special horses. You'll hear a bit about them in a bit. These are actually, you've probably already heard of them because we talked about Priam's father and these horses that he had, and it's how he ended up in beef with Heracles when Heracles rolled up and did in a week, basically, with 6 ships, what it took 1,000 plus in 10 years to do. Translator uses car for chariots. Yeah, I mean, it's like the thing you stand in. I don't know what exactly the Greek word is, and I don't think Mariana is here today to tell us. But saying it's the car, like, that's where it's where you stand in, basically. Snore. The shining son of Lycaon made the choice. Take up the reins yourself, Aeneas. Do. They're your team. They'll handle your curving chariot so much better under the driver they know best if we have to retreat back from Diomedes. God forbid they panic, skittish with fear, buck and never pull us out of the fighting, missing your own voice as Tydeus' son attacks. He'll kill us both and drive them off as prizes. So drive them yourself, your chariot, and your team, and let him charge. I'll take him on with a sharp spear. It's like, okay, Pandarus can use a spear. Okay, then he's cool with us again. And also, this is honestly from Pandarus, that's good thinking. Like, look, you know your horses, you know your chariot, your team, because everybody's kind of going to have theirs made differently. Again, there's no one size fits all. I'll give Pandarus props, that's good thinking. Both men agreed, but boarding the blazoned chariot, wildly heading their racers as Diomedes now. Capaneus' good son Sthenelus saw them coming and quickly alerted Diomedes, warnings flying. Diomedes, joy of my heart, dear comrade, look, I see 2 men and they're bearing down to fight you. Their power's enormous. One's a master archer, Pandarus, son of Lycaon, so he boasts. The other's Aeneas, claims Anchises his blood, the noble Anchises. But his mother's Aphrodite. Come, up you go in our chariot, give ground now. No charging the front ranks. You might lose your life. But powerful Diomedes froze him with a glance. Not a word of retreat. You'll never persuade me. It's not my nature to shrink from battle, cringe in fear, with the fighting strength still steady in my chest. I shrink from mounting our chariot. No retreat, on foot as I am. I'll meet them man to man. Athena would never let me flinch. Those 2? Their horses will never sweep them clear of us. Not both men. The one or the other may escape. One more thing, take it to heart, I tell you. If part of Athena's plan gives me the honor to kill them both, you check our racers here, you lash them fast to our rails, then dash for Aeneas' horses. Don't forget. Drive them out of the Trojan lines and into ours. They are the very strain far-seeing Zeus gave Tros payment in full for stealing Ganymede, Tros' son, the purest, strongest breed of all the stallions under the dawn and light of day. This is why these horses are important. Heracles is that guy. Giving Gerard Butler. Ooh, Gerard Butler's 300 for Yes! I'm gonna channel that even more now. Excellent. I don't know if I can do his accent though. So, payment in full for stealing Ganymede Thros's son. This is why these horses of Aeneas are really kind of a big deal. Why he's like, look, if I take them out, you fucking grab those horses. We want those horses. Now, Thros is the mythological founder of the kingdom of Troy. The city, Ilion, what we also call Troy, was founded by Thros's son, Ilos, or Ailus, who took the same name, Troy, from the name of the kingdom. So there's Troy the city, which is part of Troy the kingdom. Troy the kingdom is founded by Thros. Ilion, or Troy the city, is founded by Ilos, or Ailus. I'm not really sure exactly the translation. Now, Thros was said to have had 3 sons. Ilos, as we know, Ganymede, who we mentioned, and Astrakos. He also said to have had 2 daughters named Cleopatra and Cleomestra. Yes, Cleopatra was a name that existed prior to the queens of Egypt, who of course are all Greek. They're coming from the Ptolemaic line. Fun facts. Now, this brings us to Ganymede, and a name that I'm sure many people know. He's one of the 3 sons of Thros, who was, of course, again, the first king of Troy. He was said to be, when he was born, the handsomest mortal man on earth. And so Zeus ended up carrying him away to Olympus to be his personal cupbearer and wine pourer. He's like, that dude's pretty. I want him like a trophy in my hall. You're very pretty. And so it's as part of this deal, Ganymede is offered eternal youth and immortality in order to do this. Boy toy. Not actually originally. There's nothing overtly sexual about what is happening here. I mean, everybody immediately goes, oh, it's sex. It's actually not. He's just like, I should have the most beautiful cupbearer. And yes, while Hebe, his daughter with Hera, is there, she ends up kind of serving the gods in general. Ganymede serves Zeus exclusively. And Zeus is like, I'm the king. I deserve a gorgeous servant. Do I not? Because I'm king of the gods. This is a power thing. This is a flexing thing. And honestly, this is a great honor to Ganymede to give him. In addition, you're offering him eternal youth and immortality to just do this one job. Serve Zeus wine. Carry around his cup and his wine jug. Which, of course, Thros, his father, he wants pretty staff members. To him, that's reflecting his power. It is not until way, way later you do get one writer, I can't remember who it is, and I can't remember the exact context, who tried to then say, oh, but there's an erotic nature to this. For the longest time, no. And it comes from a specific writer, and then you can get into the argument of is it not? It kind of depends on who you read and how you want to interpret it. I can very readily just see it as a power thing. He's just like, I'm king of the gods. Of course my staff needs to look pretty. Duh. To me, how power has reflected that same concept just makes so much sense. Like, I need the most fashionable things, the most up-to-date things. Well, I need the best-looking staff. Right? Oberon wanting Titania's cupbearer for himself. Yeah, because it's like, that dude's pretty. Why is he not in my court? I'm the most powerful one. I should have the prettiest people in my court, kind of thing. Yeah, and so so it's actually believed in antiquity they believed that the constellation Aquarius represented Ganymede. So Zeus, of course, is like, well, I have to compensate your father. I'm kind of stealing his son, one of his potential heirs. That's a big deal back then. You know, I mean, he's got 3 sons. That's great. Any one of them could die. You're gonna want one, at least to live through. So he compensates Thros by gifting him a pair of horses that were akin to, or like from the line of, the horses that carried the gods themselves. So as I had mentioned, I believe again in book 4, I think we talked about Laomedon, who's a descendant of Thros and Ilos, that he had these horses, these insanely fast and like kind of divine horses. Now, the reason Aeneas has horses that are related to this is because his father, Anchises, basically secretly bred his mares to these horses. He stole some of the divine horse spunk and made it happen. I know, gross. But like, that's why Aeneas has these special horses that like, they're not the exact horses, but they're related. And it's like, oh shit, yeah. So that's why Diomedes is like, if I kill them both, grab those fucking horses. Those horses are a big fucking deal. So that's why they're obsessed with horses. And there is going to be, little spoilers, a little sneak peek, I believe it's book 10, where we have the Dulcinea. We're gonna have a moment of where an attempt at like a covert intel gathering op just turns into a horse raid. It's great. Stealing horses, it's a thing. Yeah, I need to be the fanciest because I'm the strongest. Yeah, it's very much that projection of power and status. Bliss. Strongest breeds of all the stallions. Lord Anchises stole from the fine stock behind Laomedon's back, Tros's grandson and heir to Tros's team. He put some mare to the lusty stallions once, and they foaled him a run of 6 in his royal house. 4 he kept for himself to rear in his own stalls, but the 2 you see in action he gave to Aeneas, both of them driving terrors. Would to God we'd take them both. We'd win ourselves great fame. I mean, again, these horses are wanted. Heracles sacked Troy because Laomedon wouldn't give up these horses. These horses are a big deal. Wavering back and forth as their 2 attackers closed in a rush, whipping that purebred team along, and Pandarus shouted first, "What mad bravado! Lofty Tydeus' boy will brave it out! So my arrow failed to bring you down, my tearing shot. Now for a spear. We'll see if this can't kill you." Shaft poised, he hurled, and its long shadow flew, and it struck Tydeus' shield, and the brazen spearhead winging, drilling right on through to his breastplate. Pandarus yelling over him wildly now. "Ha! You're hit! Clean through the side! You won't last long, I'll say. Now the glory's mine." But never shaken, staunch Diomedes shot back. "No hit! You missed! But the 2 of you will never quit this fight, I'd say. Not till one of you drops and dies, and gluts with blood, Ares who hacks at men behind his rawhide shield." With that, he hurled, and Athena drove the shaft, and it split the archer's nose between the eyes. It cracked his glistening teeth. The tough bronze cut off his tongue at the roots, smashed his jaw, and the point came ripping out beneath the chin. Which is, oh my God, my teeth hurt thinking of that. So, we have to talk about this shot. This is a wild shot. He's basically saying the spear went in down through here and came out through here. Which you have to think, okay, Diomedes is on the ground. He's not in his chariot. Pandarus is in the chariot. How the fuck did that happen? You kind of, look, the logistics. We're going to actually, the classicists have argued the logistics. Again, as I said, the logistics of this shot have long been discussed, given the seeming kind of impossibility of it. Due to the fact that, again, Diomedes is on foot, Pandarus is up in a chariot. So how the fuck are you hitting him from the top and landing down? Right? In the face! I know. So there's 2 main options. Yeah, physics took a backseat. 1, well, Athena guided the spear, so then the impossible shot thus becomes possible because, well, a god is making it happen. That's an easy way to throw physics and logic out the window, right? Option 2, Pandarus bent downward to try and dodge the spear, but ended up instead actually getting caught by it instead. Like, he didn't dodge, dodge, dip, duck, dive, and dodge. He didn't dodge low enough, and so he got down, but it exposed, he went down like this, which means the spear is coming at him and comes out through that. So basically he didn't duck low enough. If you want to not say Athena made it happen. Basically, it's an insane fucking shot. Makes no sense unless he dodged and didn't dodge low enough, or Athena just went, fuck your physics. Pick either option you prefer. Ugh, it's an insane shot. And my teeth just like, my molars hurt hearing that bit where it's just like, it smashes his jaw and I'm just like, don't crack the teeth. High perception roll or divine assistance. Or it's almost dumb luck because he doesn't know. Like, he could be aiming, at that point, he might be aiming kind of at Pandarus, his chest or something. Pandarus thinks it's going to hit his head. He ducks and it ends up actually hitting his head. It's insane. It's insane at the end of the day. He pitched from his car, armor clanged against him, a glimmering blaze of metal dazzling round his back. The purebreds reared aside, hoofs pawing the air, and his life and power slipped away on the wind. Aeneas sprang down with his shield and heavy spear, fearing the Argives might just drag away the corpse, somehow, somewhere, because this is absolutely a thing that we're all doing. Aeneas straddled the body, proud in his fighting power like some lion, shielded the corpse with spear and round buckler, burning to kill off any man who met him face to face, and he loosed a blood-curdling cry, just as Diomedes hefted a boulder in his hands, a tremendous feat. No two men could hoist it, weak as men are now, but all on his own he raised it high with ease, flung it, and struck Aeneas' thigh where the hip bone turns inside the pelvis, the joint they call the cup. It smashed the socket, snapped both tendons too, and the jagged rock tore back the skin in shreds. The great fighter sank to his knees, bracing himself with one strong forearm planted against the earth, and the world went black as night before his eyes. Yeah, a boulder. He grabs a big fucking rock and ow. Now look, I'm telling you, we're looking at the hip. He's hitting him right in the hip socket. He's hitting him right at the joint and smashing it. He's basically fully dislocated this guy's shoulder and ripped the tendons while he's at it. Now, I've, knock on wood, never had a hip injury. I have plenty of other problems with my hips thanks to my back problems. I can tell you, my younger brother, when he played lacrosse in college, tore his hip labrum, which are those like tendons right up there in the hip. He had to have 2 4-hour surgeries. 2 of them to reattach that. Mind you, he fucking walked on it for like a week, and I don't know how he did it. And the guy and the surgeon had thought it was only gonna be 1 surgery, because you have to essentially dislocate the hip in order to do the surgery and repair. You can only do it for 4 hours. My brother needed 2 of them because they only got half of it done when they first went in. And they said my brother was about that close from needing a full hip replacement. Yeah, Diomedes has just fucking wrecked Aeneas' shit. Literally, at first he's like, oh, it's a really bad hip pointer. Until the pain was so excruciating. It's insane. Yeah. Well, Greeks are built different. In a way, yes. I mean, we know, Homer even notes here about the boulder that he picks up. He says that, like, no 2 men could hoist it, weak as men are now. They believed this heroic age. I mean, men lived longer, they were stronger, hotter, better, faster, stronger, and they lived longer. So, like, that is part of it. But it's also, again, Aristeia. He's doing almost superhuman feats. But yeah, something like this should be near permanently crippling. Now, he's lucky, he's got a divine mom. But yeah, it's the same way with how ultimately Achilles' injury is going to be so devastating. We're talking destruction of tendons, and we're in joints. Oof, it's rough. Oh, a bachelor's in anthropology. Hats off to you, that's science. I stay away from science, it scares me. I had a friend who studied biological anthropology, but thank you. Yeah, but yeah, chronic pain, I know. It's something that this should be permanently crippling. This is an insane injury that he's caused him. I mean, again, kudos to Aeneas, who was there to stand his ground and was ready to go, but you're against Diomedes. And Diomedes, like, juiced up for Aristeia, and he's just like, boulder, smash, and you're like, fuck me. Ow. Just, ow. I know. I knew that one was gonna hurt. I apologize. I knew it was gonna hurt. And understandably, it says the world went black as night before his eyes. Passing out from the pain? Bitch, you'd have to try. I'd be like, keep me out. Keep me knocked out. I don't want to feel this. I mean, totally understandable that he just falls down. Diomedes smash, puny Trojan. Puny god. Literally giving the Hulk smash. Yeah. Although, really, if you want to see what a truly Hulk smashes, I mean, that really is Telamonian and Ajax. Just because he's so huge. And he does all of it without the assistance of a god. We're going to get Ajax having great moments, don't worry. Archaeology is not paleontology. And now the prince, the captain of men, Aeneas, would have died on the spot if Zeus's daughter had not marked him quickly. His mother, Aphrodite, who bore him to King Anchises tending cattle once. Round her beloved son, her glistening arms went streaming, flinging her shining robe before him, only a fold, but it blocked the weapons hurtling toward his body. Again, part of the danger is if you stop moving, you're toast, because there's spears and arrows and shit flying everywhere. Again, this is part of the danger. What happens with Achilles when he's no longer able to be swift-footed Achilles and he's down in the dirt because his fucking ankle tendon got ruptured. That man's in danger. He's fucked. Same thing as would be happening here to Aeneas if he did not have his divine mom rolling up, being like, no, my son. She feared some Argive fast with chariot team might hurl bronze in his chest and rip his life out. She began, his divine sugar mama is proud. She began to bear her dear son from the fighting, but Capaneus' son did not forget the commands the lord of the war cry put him under. Sthenelus checked his own racers clear of the crash of battle, lashed them tight to his chariot rails with reins, then dashed for Aeneas' glossy, full-maned team, and drove them out the Trojan lines and into his. He passed them on to Deipylus, a friend in arms he prized beyond all comrades his own age. Their minds worked as one, to drive to the ships as Sthenelus mounted behind his own chariot now, seized the glittering reins, and whipped his team, his strong-hoofed horses, ahead at breakneck speed. Okay, couple notes here. So, hey, we got the cool horses. Look, props where props is due. We got the cool horses. This is a little interesting bit. The seized the glittering reins and whipped his team. Glittering is a very specific word. And we're like, okay, why they, what's with the glitter? Needs more glitter. The reins here, we believe, like, why are they called glittering? Sort of like shining in the sun. It's believed that they were likely decorated with specific embellishments, maybe like little pieces of ivory, so that those bits of white and such would have, and they're sewn in to these reins, and it creates that kind of glittering effect. But the other thing that's interesting is he calls them the strong-hoofed horses. Now, in Greek, it means something more literally as like solid-footed than strong-hoofed. It's a similar idea, and that's because what Homer is doing here is drawing a contrast and distinction of like a horse's hoof versus the cloven hooves of like cows or goats or sheep. And it's like, these are strong, solid, strong-footed horses because it's one single thing versus the cloven hoof of like, agricultural animals. We're talking like a beast that's functioning as a beast of war versus a beast of like pastoral agriculture, slaughter, or whatever else have you. Again, he's driving in like this is the war imagery happening here. As Greeks did not have words for color, was the word used for glittering, referencing a particular texture, reflection of light, would have been broader and used for many different things. I'm not sure because I don't know exactly what Greek word is used. That'd be a better question for Mariana if she were here. And that would be, Alexandra, if you're in the Discord, you could ping that in the Iliad Book Club and at Mariana, because I jokingly call her our kind of resident Greek expert. If she were here, she'd be able to answer. She's studied ancient Greek and kind of flip onto that faster than I can. I'd have to go look it up later because I'm not entirely sure what Greek word was used there. It likely is referring to some sort of effect of the light. Because again, they write of things and describe things in terms of light or dark, but I'm not entirely sure. Why were they using horseshoes? Because strong hooves might matter a lot if they weren't. Is out, go to Living Wiki for Greek words. Okay. Horseshoes. I don't know. Let's see if we have evidence of horseshoes. This is a valid question that I don't know. Oh, river. Okay. My apologies, River. I did not know that. I was going by whatever name I saw there. When did we start getting horseshoes? Okay, primitive booties. Oh, this is after. It looks like they might not have been. They might not have been. Certainly not metal horseshoes. Metal horseshoes are not showing up until well after the fact. And even the idea of like plant fibers and stuff, I don't think. Let me see. I'm trying. This is outside my usual depth. So I'm not. They can go back to Rome, but I don't think they can go back further. It doesn't look like there's hoof protection is seen in ancient Asia, but I don't know if there's any archaeological evidence for it. I don't think at the time, no. I think at the time they might not have been. Hippo sandals show up in Roman stuff. Yeah, but Bronze Age. Yeah, that's why I'm like, I know there was something in the Roman era, but before then, even in Greece and going all the way back to the Bronze Age or even the Archaic Age, like, no, it doesn't look like it. So yes, they are strong. Very interesting. Where are we? We got the cool horses. There we go. Plunging to overtake his captain Diomedes, but he, with his ruthless bronze, was hunting Aphrodite. Diomedes, knowing her for the coward goddess she is, none of the mighty gods who marshaled men to battle, neither Athena nor Enyo, raider of cities. Not at all. Okay, brief little mythological break. We've mentioned a new goddess. Enyo, raider of cities, not at all. This is a war goddess. She's frequently associated with Ares. And what's interesting is here, and especially here in the Iliad, her role is really similar to Eris. And Homer seems to potentially represent both Eris and Enyo as the same, or at the very least, they're almost interchangeable in the way that he writes them in the Iliad. She's obviously, as it says, Enyo, raider of cities. She's responsible for orchestrating the destruction of cities. She's usually at the side, shown at the side of Ares. The later writer Pausanias would note her as being supreme in war. And you then get later writers, and we're talking way late in the Common Era. So Statius, who's Roman, and Nonnus, who's very famous for the Dionysiaca. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's pronounced weirdly in my head. Would involve her in her, like, as present in the tales of, like, the Seven Against Thebes or Dionysus' war with India, which comes very specifically from the Dionysiaca. I don't remember how to pronounce that one. It's different from whatever I think whenever I try and say it. But basically she's there for the idea that a city is going to fall, which again, we are foreshadowing the destruction of Troy. We are obsessed with the destruction of Troy. But once he caught her, stalking her through the onslaught, gallant Tydeus' offspring rushed her, lunging out and thrusting his sharp spear at her soft, limp wrist, and the brazen point went slashing through her flesh, tearing straight through the fresh, immortal robes the Graces themselves had made her with their labor. He gouged her just where the wrist bone joins the palm, and the immortal blood came flowing quickly from the goddess, the ichor that courses through their veins, the blessed gods. They eat no bread, they drink no shining wine, and so the gods are bloodless, so we call them deathless. A piercing shriek. She reeled and dropped her son, and Phoebus Apollo plucked him up in his hands and swathed him round him in a swirling dark mist, for fear some Argive, fast with chariot team, might hurl bronze in his chest and rip his life out. But Diomedes shouted after her, shattering war cries, "Daughter of Zeus, give up the war, your lust for carnage. So it's not enough that you lure defenseless women to their ruin. Haunting the fighting, are you? Now I think you'll cringe at the height of war if you get wind of battle far away." So he mocked, and the goddess fled the front, beside herself with pain. But Iris, quick as the wind, took up her hand and led her from the fighting, racked with agony, her glowing flesh blood dark. And off to the left of battle, Are the myths about the gods having golden blood ichor at all accurate? Is the assumption that their blood is gold a product of modern media? It's a product of modern media. Because we're describing it as dark. Her glowing flesh, blood dark, right? It's just ichor. It's not blood. Doesn't mean it's gold. That's a modern thing, likely to do visual storytelling language to differentiate it from blood, which back then in the ancient Greeks, they didn't need that. You tell them it's ichor and they understand that the gods are bloodless and deathless and all these things. They're like, whatever, it's fine, we got it. You can describe it as dark. Like, we understand the concept. Because this is a very different society, right? You're talking about like trying the idea of separating the secular and the sacred. In so many things, you couldn't really do that. It was everything in some ways sort of relating to their belief. And off to the left of the battle, she discovered Ares, violent Ares, sitting there at ease, his long spear braced on a cloud bank, flanked by racing stallions. Aphrodite fell to her knees, over and over, begged her dear brother to lend his gold bridal team. Oh, dear brother, help me. Give me your horses, so I can reach Olympus, the gods' steep stronghold. I'm wounded, the pain's too much. A mortal speared me. That daredevil Diomedes, he'd fight Father Zeus. Her brother Ares gave her the golden bridal team. Heart writhing in pain, she climbed aboard the car, and Iris climbed beside her, seized the reins, whipped the team to a run, and on the horses flew, holding nothing back. In a moment, they had reached the immortals' stronghold. Steep Olympus, wind-quick Iris curbed the team and, loosing them from the chariot, threw ambrosial fodder down before their hooves. The deathless Aphrodite sank in Dione's lap, and her mother, folding her daughter in her arms, stroked her gently, whispered her name, and asked, "Oh, who has abused you now, dear child? Tell me, who of the sons of heaven so unfeeling, cruel? Why, it's as if they had caught you in public doing something wrong." Okay, this is what I said. This is a different version, essentially. The way Christianity convinced people. Not initially, it didn't. If you go back in the old history of Christianity and Catholicism and all that, no, it didn't. So, Dione, who is Aphrodite's mother in this mythological tradition, her name literally translates from the Greek essentially as she-Zeus. It comes from the word theus. So it's literally just like feminine Zeus, right? She's usually an oracular goddess who's sometimes said to be, again, the mother of Aphrodite by Zeus. She's predominantly worshipped as kind of like Zeus's oracle at his temple at Dodona. Herodotus, in fact, would claim that the oracle at Dodona was the oldest oracle in Greece. She's considered one of the first and sort of the greatest of the goddesses who come to assist Leto when she's in labor with Apollo and Artemis, as we are told at least in the Homeric hymn to Apollo. In the Theogony, Hesiod names her as one of the Okeanids, at least, and he also, though, in Hesiod, mind you, also follows in the kind of probably more well-known mythological tradition of the idea of Aphrodite's birth from Uranos' castration. So he's like, oh, well, Dione is one of the Okeanids, and no, she's not the mother of Aphrodite. Then you get Apollodorus, who says, oh, actually, Dione is a Titan, and he also includes the Homeric tradition of saying, yes, and she is the mother of Aphrodite by Zeus. And this comes in the Bibliotheca. And then you get later on even Hyginus, who's like, well, actually, neither of those is correct. She's a daughter of Gaia and Aethar. And you're like, can you guys make up your goddamn mind? Like, please? Can somebody make up their fecking mind? No, never. You'll never make up your mind. They will never make up their minds, ever. But that's who Dione is. And Aphrodite, who loves eternal laughter, sobbed in answer. The son of Tydeus stabbed me. Diomedes, that overweening, insolent. All because I was bearing off my son from the fighting Aeneas, dearest to me of all the men alive. Look down. It's no longer ghastly war for Troy and Achaea. Now, I tell you, the Argives fight the gods. Dione, the light and loveliest of immortals, tried to calm her. Patience, oh my child, bear up now, despite your heart-sick grief. How many gods who hold the halls of Olympus have had to endure such wounds from mortal men, whenever we try to cause each other pain? Ares had to endure it. When giant Ephialtes and Otus, sons of Aloeus, bound him in chains he could not burst, trussed him up in a brazen cauldron, 13 months. And despite the gods' undying lust for battle, Ares might have wasted away there on the spot if the monster's stepmother, beautiful Erebia, had not sent for Hermes, and out of the cauldron Hermes stole him away, the war god breathing his last, all but broken down by the ruthless iron chains. And Hera endured it too. That time Amphitryon's son, mighty Heracles, hit her deep in the right breast with a 3-barbed shaft. The pain seized her. Nothing calmed the pain. Even tremendous Hades had to endure that flying shaft like all the rest, when the same man, the son of thunder-shielded Zeus, shot him in Pylos, there with the troops of battle dead, and surrendered death to pain. But Hades made his way to craggy Olympus, climbed to the house of Zeus, stabbed with agony, grief struck to the heart, the shaft driven into his massive shoulder, grinding down his spirit. So the healer applied his pain-killing drugs and sealed Hades' wound. He was not born to die. So, several things in this whole speech we have from Thyone to Aphrodite. What she's doing is comforting Aphrodite. She's pointing out that, look, Aphrodite, babes, honey, my sweet cheeks, my girl, you're not special. You're not the only Olympian who's been wounded by a mortal. It's not that big a deal. She tells the story of Ares with Otus and Ephialtes, and how he later has to be rescued by Hermes. Now, Otus and Ephialtes are collectively referred to as the Aloadai, which is a reference to their human father. Otus's name roughly translates as insatiate, and Ephialtes' name apparently roughly translates as something like nightmare. They are the Thessalonian sons of Poseidon and Princess Iphimedia, who was the wife of Aloeus. It is said that Iphimedia, I believe it's Iphimedia, seduced Poseidon and induced him to knock her up by disporting herself in the sea's surf and scooping seawater up into her bust. So she was getting a little lusty with the sea to try and basically turn Poseidon on. Don't ask questions. Otus and Ephialtes were very strong and aggressive giants. It said that by age 9, they stood like 9 fathoms tall, which is roughly like 54 feet. So they were big boys, okay? They attempted a coup by piling mountains atop each other in order to try and match the height of Olympus. And in this endeavor, they also, at that point, very famously locked Ares in a jar, the word being pithos. They were ultimately slain by each other and would be punished in the underworld. They were slain by each other because what Artemis did is she changed herself into a doe, like a hind, a deer. And they're obviously avid hunters. And she kind of teases them so they notice her, and then what she does is they're getting ready to fire at her, she jumps between them so that they hurl their spears, but she's quick enough that she gets out of the way, and basically each of their spears pierces the other, and they end up fatally hitting each other. Now, the other stories that she mentions is the idea that Hades and Hera are at some point wounded by Heracles, and with Hades, it's in the course of a battle at Pylos. It's really important to note that these legends, these stories that he's mentioning with Hera and Hades, do not appear in any other sources, to the point that even ancient commentators were puzzled by what the fuck is Homer talking about. They're like, we have no reference for this. Like, bro, what are you talking about? We don't know this one. We don't know this one. What is this from? In the same way that in the Odyssey, he mentions that like Odysseus and Achilles had deep beef, and everybody's like, what are you talking about? We don't know this story. And so really the big thing is that she's saying, honey, you're not the first person who's gotten a wound from a mortal. It's not that big a deal. Calm the fuck down. The other people you're looking at Otus and Ephialtes, these giant sons of Poseidon, and then you're looking at Heracles, the guy. And now we have Diomedes, who is having his Odysseia and is like hopped up. And so it's just like, babes, you went down there, you involved yourself, because the gods are trying to hurt each other, the mortals are trying to hurt each other, like, honey, you're fine, walk it off. And now we mentioned, but the healer applied his pain-killing drugs. Now, obviously, if you don't have a copy of your book, healer is capitalized, because we're very much referring to Paeon. Paeon is a minor god. He's the divine physician to the gods. And what he heals the Olympians through the use of pharmaca, aka herbs, hence where you do get the name of pharmacy, It comes from pharmaka, or pharmakon. Pion is eventually, his name is going to eventually be an epithet that is also shared by Apollo, Asclepios, and Helios, in the same way that Helios takes on the epithet Hyperion, which is the name of his own father. So sometimes, and like Athena is called Pallas Athena. You know, taking on other names as an epithet is quite common. And that's because his name, Pion, literally translates as essentially one who heals illness through magic, or as we would say very loosely, a physician or a healer. So the fact that he has this very specific name, of course that name then is used as part of an epithet when describing other gods who kind of end up associated either with the use of pharmakon or pharmaka, these drugs. Obviously we know with Helios and his bloodline that absolutely happens. Look at Medea, look at Circe, the use of these pharmaka, but then also other characters associated with healing, Apollo and his son Asclepios. So it makes total sense. Yeah, no, I lost my page. Did I lose my page? Maybe I didn't lose my page. I did not lose my page. This is excellent. Think of that breakneck Heracles, his violent work, not a care in the world for all the wrongs he'd done. He and his arrows raking the gods who hold Olympus. But the man who attacked you? The great goddess, fiery-eyed Athena, set him on, that fool. Doesn't the son of Tydeus know, down deep, the man who fights the gods does not live long? Nor do his children ride his knees with cries of, "Father," home at last from the wars and heat of battle. So now let Diomedes, powerful as he is, be on his guard, for fear a better soldier than you engage him. For fear his wife, Aegialia, Adrastus' daughter, for all her self-control, will wail through the nights and wake her beloved servants out of sleep. The gallant wife in tears, longing for him, her wedded husband, the best of the Achaeans, Diomedes, breaker of horses. Soothing words, and with both her hands, Dione gently wiped the ichor from Aphrodite's arm, and her wrist healed at once. Her stark pain ebbed away. Again, so it's like, yeah, they get wounded. Immediately fixed. They're gods. Immediately fixed. They're like surprised by pain and then it's immediately healed. He does live a good while, but I mean, that is what she's like, he should be on guard that if you attack the gods, you won't live long. This is going to come up again when he keeps dueling gods on the battlefield, or trying to, where he's just like, come at me, bro. And they're like, buddy, we don't give a shit what you do with the mortals, but calm your fucking roll. Oh. But Hera and great Athena were looking on, and with mocking words began to provoke the father. Athena leading off with taunts, her eyes bright. Father Zeus, I wonder if you would fume at me if I ventured a bold guess. Our goddess of love, I'd swear she's just been rousing another Argive, another beauty to pant and lust for Trojans. Those men the goddess loves to such despair, stroking one of the Argive women's rippling gowns. She's pricked her limp wrist on a golden pinpoint. So she mocked, and the father of gods and mortals smiled broadly, calling the golden Aphrodite over because he is never ever mad at Athena. She's trying to rage bait him and he's just like, you're so right, daughter. Fighting is not for you, my child, the works of war. See to the works of marriage, the slow fires of longing. Athena and blazing Ares will deal with all the bloodshed. I love how it says she's trying to provoke her dad. Like, she's sort of trying to needle and like poke at her dad. He's just like, oh, my daughter, you're so funny. My other daughter, bitch, don't get involved. He's like, my precious war. He's like, don't get involved. You're not for war. Silly girl. Just like, again, can you tell who his favorite is? No, I mean, he's kind of being a girl. Dottie's basically saying, don't cry, honey. You were not meant for war. Which, I mean, she's not. She's not a war goddess. He's like, leave the fighting to those two. So he's like trying to be nice to Aphrodite, but he's also always on Team Athena. You can be a girl dad, and he's just like, no, but that is my favorite. I'm a girl dad to all of you, but like, I will always pick Athena over everybody. I I love how much it's so obvious she's his favorite. It cracks me up. And now as the high gods bantered back and forth, Diomedes, loosing his war cry, charged Aeneas, though what he saw was Lord Apollo himself, guarding, spreading his arms above the fighter. But even before the mighty god, he would not flinch. Tydides reared and hurled himself again and again, trying to kill Aeneas, strip his famous armor. 3 times he charged, frenzied to bring him down. 3 times Apollo battered his gleaming shield back. Then, at Tydides' 4th assault, like something superhuman, the archer who strikes from worlds away shrieked out, a voice of terror, "Think, Diomedes! Shrink back now! Enough of this madness, striving with the gods! We are not of the same breed. We never will be. The deathless gods and the men who walk the earth." Like, ooh, damn. Again, if a god is breaking out a divine megaphone to yell at me, I'm fucking listening. That would scare the shit out of me. Not gonna lie, this is why I'm not Diomedes. But honestly, he will take this to heart. This is important. We are not of the same breed. We never will be. The deathless gods and the men who walk the earth. Not so subtle reminder. Humans and the gods are not the same. At the most fundamental level of their existence, the gods are always will be superior. He's like, it's like, I get it. You're in the midst of an Odyssea, but don't you fucking forget what you're doing. Like, yeah, you wounded Aphrodite, who's not meant for war. Seriously, stop fucking playing with me now. And frankly, anybody who was not kind of war crazed in the way that Diomedes is right now would have known to stop. Especially when he knows it's Apollo. That's the extra thing. Like, he knows it's Apollo. So Apollo's like, I get it. You're hyped up on war, and he might not know that Athena has given him this vision so that he can tell. And he's just like, knock it off, kid. Yeah, sit your ass down, son. It's like, basically, whoa now. You want to go fight, go fight. Back the fuck up, go around. Menacing so that Tydeus' son pulled back just a little, edging clear of the distant, deadly archer's rage. And Apollo swept Aeneas up from the onslaught and set him down on the sacred heights of Pergamus, the crest where the gods' own temple had been built. The sacred heights of Pergamus, this seems to have been some sort of like family shrine for both the divine twins, aka Apollo and Artemis, and their mother Leto, but that's kind of all we really know about Pergamus. There in the depths of the dark forbidden chamber, Leto and Artemis, who showers flights of arrows, healed the man and brought him back to glory. So again, the only reason Aeneas is able to walk again is the gods rolled up and went, we're gonna heal this injury. Otherwise, he should have been crippled basically for life. So, lucky Aeneas. But the Lord of the Silver Bow devised a phantom, like Aeneas to the life, wearing his very armor, and round that phantom, Trojans and brave Achaeans went at each other, hacking the oxides round their chests, the bucklers full and round, skin shields, tassels flying. But Phoebus Apollo called to blazing Ares, 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 destroyer of men, wreaking blood, stormer of ramparts. Can't you go and drag that man from the fighting? That daredevil Diomedes, he'd fight Father Zeus. He's just assaulted love. He stabbed her wrist like something superhuman. He even charged at me. So Apollo is pulling. He's having a little wheeze. He's throwing a little trick. He's made it look like there's the body of Aeneas still kind of on the battlefield lying there in all his armor, which again, people want to loot the armor, and then the Trojans don't want him to take him, so they're all fighting over each other. He's like, hey, Ares, what are you doing just sitting here? Can't you see that your Boothang son is down there? Gosh, Diomedes, that crazy guy. Like, yeah, help! Oh, Ares, help! That dude is crazy! So this is how we lure Ares onto the battlefield, who initially, through Athena's plan, was just sitting out watching, going, you know what, this is good sport, guys, good sport. And I was like, oh, Ares, for once in your life, be useful. I so love that. It's like, this dude is nuts. That's my favorite bit. He's literally just being like, can you believe this guy? Ares, you should totally go and fight him. Good God. I mean, and this is a great distraction technique, because now everybody's fighting over a body that isn't even there. You've distracted a whole chunk of people. Good God. With that, Apollo settled on Pergamus Heights, while murderous Ares, wading into the fighting, spurred the Trojan columns on to mass attack. Shaped like the runner Acamas, prince of Thrace, Ares challenged the sons of Priam with a vengeance. You royal sons of Priam, monarch dear to the gods, how long will you let Achaeans massacre your armies? Until they're battling round your well-built gates? A man is down, we prized on a par with noble Hector, Aeneas, proud Anchises' son, up with you now, rescue him from the crash of battle, save our comrade! Which again, see how he's on the battlefield, unless you are a god, or you're Diomedes with his special god vision that he's got thanks to Athena, you have no idea this is a god. He's looking like somebody else. As Ares whipped the fighting spirit in each man, Sarpedon taunted Hector. Hector, where has it gone? That high courage you always carried in your heart. No doubt you bragged that you could hold your city without an army and Trojan allies, all on your own, just with your sisters as husbands and brothers. But where are they now? I look, I can't find one. They cringe and cower like hounds circling a lion. We, your allies here, we do your fighting for you. And I myself, Hector, your ally to the death. A good long way I came from distant Lycia, far from the Xanthus' rapids, where I left my loving wife, my baby son, great riches too, and lasting envy of every needy neighbor. And still I lead our Lycians into battle. Myself, I chafe to face my man full force, though there's not a scrap of mine for looting here. No cattle or gold the foe could carry off. But you just stand there. Don't even command the rest to brace and defend their wives. Beware the toils of war, the mesh of the huge dragnet sweeping up the world before you're trapped, your enemies' prey and plunder. Soon they'll raze your sturdy citadel to the roots. All this should obsess you, Hector. Night and day, you should be begging the men who lead your allies' famous ranks to stand and fight for all they're worth. You'll ward off all the blame they hurl against you. And Sarpedon's charge cut Hector to the core. Down he leapt. Not that Hector wasn't out there. He was out on the battlefield. He's just not shouting commands. The way that all of the Achaeans are being roused to this insanity where they're all yelling at each other and loosing out war cries, and Hector is not doing that. So Sarpedon's like, what the fuck, brah? Can you give us a little aura? Can you give us a little something, please? And Hector's like, whoa now. I can't have them thinking that of me. What the hell? That's not me. I mean, we know Hector is a good fighter and he's an honorable guy. So that kind of a charge, them's fighting words. But he's like, okay, something needs to be done, So down he leapt from his chariot, fully armed, hit the ground, and brandishing two sharp spears, went striding down his lines, ranging flank to flank, driving his fighters into battle, rousing grisly war, and round the Trojans' world, bracing to meet the Argives face to face. So we're talking here about, what's the word I'm looking for? Not aura. It's what is that concept? It's that thing that can rouse armies, that thing that can turn the tide of a battle. The thing that Napoleon said was 3 times more important than actual materials. What the hell is that called? Why am I blanking on this word? Morale! Thank you! I'll get there. Morale. This is about morale. So Hector, charisma, morale. Morale is the word I'm looking for. So Hector's coming through with the morale. He's like, our morale is done. He's like, I'm going to turn that morale back in our direction. Morale or food. It was morale. So this is all about morale. This is about vibes. This is about aura. Everybody can fight. Now let's get ourselves, you got to up the hype here. bracing to meet the Argives face to face. But the Argives, closed ranks, did not cave in. Remember the wind that scatters the dry chaff, sweeping it over the sacred threshing floor. The men winnowing hard, and blonde Demeter culling grain from dry husk in the rough and gusting wind, and under it all the heaps of chaff are piling white. So white the Achaeans turned beneath the dust storm now, pelting across their faces, kicked up by horses' hoofs to the clear bronze sky. The battle joined again. Charioteers swung chariots round, thrust the powerful fist of fury straight ahead, and murderous Ares, keen to help the Trojans, shrouded the carnage over in dense, dark night, lunging at all points, carrying out the commands of Phoebus Apollo, lord of the golden sword, who ordered Ares to whip the Trojans' warlust once he spotted Athena veering off the lines. Sorry about that. Out of his rich guarded chamber, the god himself launched Aeneas now, driving courage into his men, and the captain took his place amidst his men, and how they thrilled to see him still alive, safe, unharmed, and marching back to their lines, his soul ablaze for war. But his men asked him nothing. The labor of battle would not let them. More labor urged by the god of the silver bow and man-destroying Ares, and strife flaring on, headlong on. The Achaeans? The two Iantes, Tydides and Odysseus, spurred them on to attack. The troops themselves had no fear, no dread of the Trojans' power and breakneck charges, no. They stood their ground, like heavy thunderheads stacked up on the towering mountaintops by Cronus' son, stuck still in a windless calm, when the raging north wind and his gusty, ripping friends that had screamed down to rout dark clouds have fallen, dead asleep. So staunch they stood, the Trojan onslaught, never shrinking once, as Atrides ranged the ranks, shouting out commands. Now be men, my friends! Courage, come, take heart! Dread what comrades say of you here in bloody combat. Would men dread that? More men come through alive. When soldiers break and run, goodbye, glory! Goodbye, all defenses! A flash, a sudden hurl, and Atrides speared a champion out in front. It was Prince Aeneas' comrade in Deicoon, Paugas' son, the Trojans prized like Priam's sons, quick as he always was to join the forward ranks. Now his shield took powerful Agamemnon's spear, but failed to deflect it. Straight through it smashed, bronze splitting his belt and plunging down his guts. He fell, thundering, armor ringing against him. There, Aeneas replied in kind and killed 2 Argive captains, Diocles' 2 sons, Orsilochus flanking Creton. Their father lived in the fortress town of Phaera, a man of wealth and worth, born of Alpheus river running wide through the Pylian hills, the stream that sired Ortilochus to rule their many men. Ortilochus sired Diocles, that proud heart, and Diocles bred Orsilochus, twinned with Creton, drilled for any fight. And reaching their prime, they joined the Argives, sailing the black ships outward bound for the stallion land of Troy, all for the sons of Atreus, to fight to the end and win their honor back. So death put an end to both, wrapped them both in night, fresh as 2 young lions off on the mountain ridges, twins reared by a lioness deep in the dark glades that ravage shepherds' steadings, mauling the cattle and fat sheep till it's their turn to die, hacked down by the cleaving bronze blades in the shepherd's hands. So here the twins were laid low at Aeneas' hands. Down they crashed like lofty pine trees axed. Both down, but Menelaus pitied them both, yes, and out for blood he burst through the front, helmed in fiery bronze, shaking his spear, and Ares' fury drove him, Ares hoping to see him crushed at Aeneas' hands. Antilochus marked him now, great Nestor's son, went racing across the front himself, terrified for the lord of armies. What if he were killed? Their hard campaigning just might come to grief. As Aeneas and Menelaus came within arm's reach, waving whetted spears in each other's faces, nerved to fight it out, Antilochus rushed in, tensing shoulder to shoulder by his captain now, and Aeneas shrank from battle, fast as he was in arms, when he saw that pair of fighters side by side, standing their ground against him. Once they dragged the bodies back to their lines, they dropped the luckless twins in companions' open arms, and round they swung again to fight in the first ranks. Okay, that's right. I'm looking here. Sorry. Do we know what the title Iantes means? Iantes. I think it has... I think I know, but I'm gonna double check. That's what I thought. Let me read that look again. Yes, that's what I thought. So it's the plural form of the two Ajaxes, because Ajax doesn't have a J in Greek, it's Ajax. So Iantes is the two Ajaxes, because they're doing a list. They're like the two Iantes, Tydides and Odysseus. So it's the two Ajaxes, Diomedes and Odysseus, right? So Iantes is just the plural form of Ajax, which is Ajax. Again, there's no J. They use an I instead. I was like, I want to double check, because I'm like, pretty sure that has to do with Ajax, but I didn't see, I'm used to seeing it as AI, and I saw it as AE, and so for a second it threw me. So yeah, there we go. Where are we? We brought the twins back, okay. And next they killed Palaemenes, tough as Ares, a captain heading the Paphlagonian shieldsmen, hot-blooded men. Menelaus, the famous spearman, stabbed him right where he stood, the spear point pounding his collarbone to splinters. Antilochus killed his charioteer and steady henchman Mydon, Antimnius' strapping son, just wheeling his racers round as Antilochus winged a rock and smashed his elbow. Out of his grip, the reins, white with ivory, flew and slipped to the ground and tangled in the dust. Antilochus... So it's Ajax. Yes, I just said that. Slipped to the ground, tangled in the dust. Antilochus sprang. He plunged a sword in his temple, and Mydon, gasping, hurled from his bolted car face first, head and shoulders stuck in a dune a good long time, for the sand was soft and deep, his lucky day, till his own horses trampled him down, flat, as Antilochus lashed them hard and drove them back to Achaea's waiting ranks. But Hector marked them across the lines, and rushed them now with a cry, and Trojan shock troops backed him full strength, and Ares led them in with deadly Queen Enya, bringing uproar on, the savage chaos of battle, the god of combat wielding his giant shaft in hand, now ranging ahead of Hector, now behind him, Ares there, and for all his war cries Diomedes shrank at the sight, as a man at a loss, helpless, crossing a vast plain, halts short at a river rapid surging out to sea, takes one look at the water roaring up in foam, and springs back with a leap. So he recoiled, shouting out to comrades, "Oh, my fools! What fools we were to marvel at wondrous Hector! What a spearman we shed, and what a daring fighter! But a god goes with him always, beating off disaster. Look, that's Ares beside him now. Just like a mortal, give ground, but faces fronting the Trojans always. No use trying to fight the gods in force." So he warned, as the Trojans charged them harder, and Hector, lunging, leveled a pair of men who knew the joy of battle, riding a single chariot, Menestheus and Anchialos. Down they went, and the great Ajax pitied both. He strode to their side and loomed there, loosed a gleaming spear, and struck down Amphius, Selagus' son, who lived at ease in Paesus, rich in possessions, rich in rolling wheatland. But destiny guided Amphius on, a comrade sworn to the cause of Priam and all of Priam's sons. Now giant Ajax speared him through the belt. Deep in the guts the long shadowy shaft struck, and down he fell with a clash, as glorious Ajax rushed to strip his armor, Trojans showering spears against him, points glittering round him, his shield taking repeated hits. He dug his heel in the corpse, yanked his own bronze out. But as for the dead man's burnished gear, no hope. The giant was helpless to rip it off his back, enemy weapons beating against him. Worse, he dreaded the Trojans too, swarming round him, a tough ring of them, brave and bristling spears, massing, rearing over their comrade's body now, and rugged, strong and proud as the great Ajax was, they shoved him back. He gave ground, staggering, reeling. So fighters worked away in the grim shocks of war, and Heracles' own son, Tlepolemus, tall and staunch, his strong fate was driving him now against Sarpedon, a man like a god, closing quickly, coming head to head, the son and the son's son of Zeus who marshals storms. Tlepolemus opened up to taunt his enemy first. Sarpedon, master strategist of the Lycians, what compels you to cringe and cower here? You raw recruit, green at the skills of battle. They lie when they say you're born of storming Zeus. Look at yourself, how short you've fallen of the fighter sired by Zeus in the generations long before us. Why, think what they say of mighty Heracles. There was a man, my father, that dauntless, furious spirit, that lion heart. He once sailed here for Laomedon's blooded horses, which is 6 ships and smaller crews than yours. True, but he razed the walls of Troy. He widowed all her streets. You, with your coward's heart, your men dying round you. You're no bulwark come out of Lycia, I can tell you. No help to Trojans here. For all your power, soldier, crushed at my hands, you'll breach the gate of death. Isn't that technically hypocritical what Diomedes said about Hector being accompanied by Ares? Seems it was accompanied by Athena. Am I misunderstanding Aristeia? You're misunderstanding Aristeia. Athena showed up, helped him out, and then left. She's not there at his side anymore. He's saying, hey, Ares is right fucking there. Just FYI. And I can see them. Like, he's like, that's absolutely Ares. Now, is he telling them I've got, like, God vision or whatever? No, he's just saying, that's Ares. That's not a normal dude. They're running at us with the literal god of war. Maybe we be fucking careful. So no, it's not hypocritical at all what Diomedes said. He's pointing out to them, be fucking careful. Right? Athena rolled up and then she dipped. She's right now not currently at his side. And it is also a warning. By the way, that guy is Ares. Don't fucking attack him. Yeah. You aren't fooling anyone. I can see you. Your disguise sucks. No, it doesn't. It's a good disguise. Obviously, he's just got, like, X-ray vision goggles. So, this bit we have with the son of Heracles throwing shade. This is obviously... We talked about this story again in book 4. It is referencing when Heracles rescued Hesione, daughter of Laomedon, from a sea monster that got sent by Poseidon, on the promise of the reward of these famed mythical horses that have been given to Tros. And when Laomedon, who didn't learn his lesson, not showing up proper compensation to Apollo and Poseidon for building his walls, refused to pay Heracles went, bet! Had his buddy Telamon, who is the father of Telamonian Ajax, and they had 6 ships with a smaller crew than the 1,000 plus ships that are here. And they said, bet! And they took Troy. Completely took it. And again, they did that in a fraction of the time. Meanwhile, they've gone through, they're in year 9 of the war. And 1,000 plus ships with bigger crews have yet to take the city. Yeah, nah, that's good shade. He's like, dude, my dad already sacked your fucking city. I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'd be saying the same thing too, to be fair. Heracles built different. And, I mean, and also, hey, Telamon was there too. Telamonian and Ajax's dad was there too. But Sarpedon, the Lycian captain, faced him down. Right you are, Tlepolemus. Your great father destroyed the sucking heights of Troy. Thanks, of course, to a man's stupidity. Proud Laomedon. That fool, he rewarded all his kindness with abuse. Never gave him the mares he'd come so far to win. But the only thing you'll win at my hands here, I promise you, is slaughter and black doom. Gouged by my spear, you'll give me glory now. You'll give your life to the famous horseman Death. In fast reply, Tlepolemus raised his ashen spear, and the same moment shafts flew from their hands, and Sarpedon hit him square across the neck. The spear went ramming through, pure agony. Black night came swirling down across his eyes. But Tlepolemus' shaft had struck Sarpedon too. The honed tip of the weapon hitting his left thigh, ferocious, razoring into flesh and scraping bone. Oh my God. But his father beat off death a little longer. Heroic Sarpedon, his loyal comrades bore him out of the fighting quickly, weighed down by the heavy spear shaft dragging on. But hurrying so, no one noticed or even thought to wrench the ashen javelin from his thigh so the man could hobble upright. On they rushed, bent on the work of tending to his body. Tlepolemus, far across the lines, the armed Achaeans hauled him out of the fight. And seasoned Odysseus saw it, his brave spirit steady, ablaze for action now. What should he do? He racked his heart and soul. Lunge at Prince Sarpedon, son of storming Zeus, or go at the Lycians' mass and kill them all? But no, it was not the gallant Odysseus' fate to finish Zeus' rugged son with his sharp bronze. So Pallas swung his fury across the Lycian front, whirling, killing Coryranus, Chromius, and Alastor, killing Alconder and Halius, Prytanis, and Noemon, and stalwart Odysseus would have killed still more. But tall Hector, his helmet flashing, marked him quickly, plowed through the front, helmed in fiery bronze, filling the Argives' hearts with sudden terror. And Zeus' son Sarpedon rejoiced to see him striding past and begged him in his pain, "Son of Priam, don't leave me lying here, such easy prey for the Danaans. Protect me. Later I'll bleed to death inside your walls. Clearly it's not my fate to journey home again to the fatherland I love. Bring some joy to my dear wife, my baby son." But Hector, his helmet flashing, answered nothing. He swept past him, Hector burning to thrust the Argives back at once and tear the life and soul out of whole battalions. But Sarpedon's loyal comrades laid him down, a man like a god beneath a fine spreading oak, sacred to Zeus, whose shield is banked with clouds. The veteran Pelagon, one of his closest aides, pushed the shaft of ashwood out through his wound. His spirit left him. A mist poured down his eyes. But he caught his breath again. A gust of the north wind blowing round him carried back the life breath he had gasped away in pain. But the Argive fighters, facing Ares' power and Hector helmed in bronze, they neither turned and ran for their black ships, nor traded blows with enemies man to man. Backing over and over, the Argives gave ground, seeing the lords of battles lead the Trojan onset. Who was the first they slaughtered? Who the last? The brazen god of war and Hector, son of Priam? Teuthras first, Orestes, lasher of stallions next, and Aetolian spearman Thraicos, Oenamaos, and Helenus, Oenopsis' son, and Orespius cinched with shining belt, who had lived in Hyli, hoarding his great wealth, his estate aslope the shores of Lake Cephisus, and round him Boeotians held the fertile plain. But soon as the white-armed goddess saw them, mauling Argive units caught in the bloody press, she winged her words at Pallas. What disaster! Daughter of storming Zeus, tireless one Athena, how hollow our vow to Menelaus, that he would sack the mighty walls of Troy before he sailed home, if we let murderous Ares rampage on this now. Up now, set our minds on our own fighting fury. Hera's challenge, and goddess Athena, her eyes afire, could not resist. Hera, queen of the gods, daughter of giant Cronus, launched the work, harnessed the golden bridal team, and Hebe quickly rolled the wheels to the chariot, paired wheels with their 8 spokes all bronze, and bolted them at both sides of the iron axle, fine wheels with fellies of solid, deathless gold, and round them running rims of bronze clamped fast. A marvel to behold. The silver hubs spin round on either side of the chariot's woven body, gold and silver lashings strapping it tight, double rails sweeping along its deep, full curves, and the yoke pole jutting forward, gleaming silver. There at the tip, she bound the gorgeous golden yoke. She fastened the gorgeous golden breast straps next, and under the yoke, Queen Hera led the horses, racers, blazing for war and the piercing shrieks of battle. Man, Hera said, "Look, Athena, we pimped out your ride. Let's go." Excuse me, hi back. Then Athena, child of Zeus, whose shield is thunder, letting fall her supple robe at the father's threshold, rich brocade, stitched with her own hands' labor, donned the battle shirt of the Lord of Lightning, buckled her breastplate geared for wrenching war, and over her shoulders slung her shield, all tassels, flaring terror, panic mounted high in a crown around it, hate and defense across it. Assault to freeze the blood, and right in their midst, the Gorgon's monstrous head, that rippling dragon horror sign of storming Zeus. Then, over her brows, Athena placed her golden helmet, fronted with 4 knobs and forked with twin horns, engraved with the fighting men of 100 towns. Then, unto the flaming chariot palace set her feet, and seized her spear, weighty, heavy, the massive shaft she wielded to break the battle lines of fighters the mighty father's daughter storms against. A crack of the whip, the goddess Hera lashed the team, and all on their own force the gates of heaven thundered open, kept by the seasons, guards of the vaulting sky and Olympus' heights empowered to spread the massing clouds or close them round once more. Okay, the seasons, the Horai. We've mentioned them before in Odyssey Book Club. This shouldn't be new to anybody. So obviously, though, we use the word heaven in translation. Phagos is, of course, referring to the gates of Olympus, the home of the gods. And of course, these cloud gates are generally thought to be controlled by the Horai, also called the seasons of the year, making them so to keep the gatekeepers, if you will. The Horai are the daughters of Zeus and Themis, who are goddesses of the seasons and the natural portions of time. They are also presented here, of course, as the keepers of the cloud gates of Olympus. Now, the number of Horai, like how many of them are there? Yeah, it varies across the source. Depends who you read. They are traditionally recognized as being one of 2 specific trios of sisters. Trio 1 is usually Talo, Auxo, and Carpo, who are goddesses of the order of nature, or somebody might claim that the trio is in fact Eunomia, Daiki, and Irene. Now, in the Homeric hymn to Aphrodite, we see the prior of these trios, so Talo, Auxo, and Carpo, and their origins as emblems of times of life and growth, aka the 3 classical seasons of the year. Talo's name means like to sprout or to grow, is the goddess of spring, buds, and blooms. She is a protector of youth. We have Auxo, whose name means increase. That's the goddess and personification of summer, protector of vegetation and plants, growth and fertility. And then we have Carpo, whose name means essentially to bear fruit. This is the goddess and again personification of autumn, of ripening and harvesting, as well as one who guards the way to Mount Olympus. So that's in the Homeric hymn to Aphrodite. But if you ask Hesiod in his Theogony, he says actually it's the latter of these 2 trios. It's Eunomia, Daiki, and Irene. And that they function as law and order goddesses who maintain the stability of society. So Daiki, whose name essentially means like justice, is the goddess of morality and the justice who rules specifically over human justice. We have Eunomia, who is like order. It's the goddess of law and legislation. And then we have Irene, whose name essentially means peace, is the goddess and personification of peace and wealth. So that's who the Horai is. If I had to guess, we're probably going with the original, we'll say, well, not really the original, the initial 3, Talo, Auxo, and Carpo. But it doesn't really matter too much. And that's who the Horai are, the seasons, if you will. Now straight through the great gates she drove the team, whipping them on full tilt until they came to Zeus, the son of Cronus, sitting far from the other gods, throned at the topmost crag of rugged, ridged Olympus. And halting her horses near, the white-armed Hera called out at once to the powerful son of Cronus, pressing home her questions. "Father Zeus, look, Aren't you incensed at Ares and his brutal work, killing so many brave Achaeans for no good reason, not a shred of decency, just to wound my heart? While they sit there at their royal ease exulting, the goddess of love and Apollo, lord of the silver bow, they loosed this manic Ares. He has no sense of justice. Father Zeus, I wonder if you would fume at me if I hurled a stunning blow at the god of war and drove him from the fighting. Zeus the father, who marshals ranks of storm clouds, gave commands. Leap to it then! Launch Athena against him, the queen of plunder, she's the one, his match, a marvel at bringing Ares down in pain. He's basically like, go ahead, daughter, have fun. Have fun. So he urged, and the white-armed goddess Hera obeyed at once. And again she lashed her team, and again the stallions flew, holding nothing back. Careering between the earth and starry skies, as far as a man's glance can pierce the horizon's misting haze, a scout on a watchtower who scans the wine-dark sea. So far do the soaring, thundering horses of the gods leap at a single stride. And once they reached the plains of Troy, where the two rivers flow, where Simois and Scamander rushed together, the white-armed goddess Hera reined her team, loosing them from the chariot yoke, and round them poured a dense, shrouding mist. Before their hoofs, the Simois sprang ambrosial grass for them to graze. Simois is like, I'm not getting involved. I am so not getting involved. So yes, Hera is functioning as Athena's chariot driver here. Hera's like, it's like, we're off, babe, we'll see you later. You know, stepmother and daughter fun times out at war. The two immortals stepped briskly as wild doves, quivering, keen to defend the fighting men of Argos. Once they gained the spot where the most and bravest stood, flanking strong Diomedes, breaker of wild stallions, masked like a pride of lions, tearing raw flesh, or ramping boars whose fury never flags. The white-armed goddess Hera rose, and shouted loud as the brazen voice of great-lunged Stentor, who cries out with the blast of 50 other men, Shame! Disgrace! You Argives, you degraded, splendid in battle dress, pure sham! As long as brilliant Achilles stalked the front, no Trojan would ever venture beyond the Dardan gates. They were so afraid of the man's tremendous spear. Now they're fighting far away from the city, right by your hollow ships! So Hera trumpeted, lashing the nerve and fighting fury in each man as Athena, her eyes blazing, made for Diomedes. Hard by his team and car, she found the king, cooling the wound that Pandarus' arrow dealt him. Sweat from under the heavy buckler's flat strap had rubbed him raw. He was chafed, and his arm ached from lifting up the strap, wiping off the blood and the dark clots. Laying hold of the yoke that bound his team, the goddess Pallas started. So, Tydeus' son is half the size of his father, and he was short and slight. But Tydeus was a fighter, even then when I forbade him to go to war, or make a show of himself in others' eyes. That time alone, apart from his men, he marched the message into Thebes, filled with hordes of Thebans. I told him to banquet in their halls and eat in peace. But he always had that power, that courage from the first. And so he challenged the brave young blades of Thebes to tests of strength and beat them all with ease. I urged him on with so much winning force. Excuse me. Again, this is a reference to what was Tydeus was a member of the Seven against Thebes. That's why he was there in Thebes. And obviously we know that Tydeus, along with the other sevens, they failed in this aspect, and it was Diomedes and his buddies, who were the sons of the other six. These are the Epigonoi. They ended up fighting against even stronger Theban walls that had been reinforced all over again, and ended up winning. So she's like, hey man, I told him to just go and eat, get a good free meal, and not do anything. It's like, but he was like, nah bitches, I'm the strongest. Let's have a contest. And contests are very common. Again, Greeks were really competitive in like everything, which is reflected a lot in the Iliad and in the Odyssey. They love their games and their feats of strength. But you, Tydides, I stand by you as well. I guard you too, and with all good will I say, fight it out with the Trojans here. But look at you. Fatigue from too much charging has sapped your limbs. That or some lifeless fear has paralyzed you now. So you're no offspring of Tydeus, the gallant, battle-hardened Oneus' son. And powerful Diomedes bowed to her at once. Well, I know you, goddess, daughter of storming Zeus, and so I will tell you all gladly. I'll hide nothing. It's not some lifeless fear that paralyzes me now, no flinching from combat either. It's your own command that ringing in my ears, forbidding me to fight the immortals head on. All but one of the blessed gods, that is, if Aphrodite, daughter of Zeus, slips into battle, she's the one to stab with my sharp bronze spear. So now, you see, I have given ground myself and told my comrades to mass around me here. Too well I know that Ares leads the charge. But the goddess roused him on, her eyes blazing. True son of Tydeus, Diomedes, joy of my heart, forget the orders. Nothing to fear, my friend, neither Ares nor any other god. You too, I'll urge you on with so much winning force. Up now, lash your racing horses as Ares first. Strike him at close range. No shrinking away here before that headlong Ares. Just look at the maniac, born for disaster, double-dealing, lying, two-faced god. Just now, he promised me in Hera. The war god swore he'd fight the Trojans, stand behind the Argives. But now look, he's leading the Trojan rampage. His pledges thrown to the wind. With that challenge, Athena leveraged Sthenelus out the back of the car. A twist of her wrist and the man hit the ground, springing aside as the goddess climbed aboard, blazing to fight beside the shining Diomedes. The big oaken axle groaned beneath the weight, bearing a great man and a terrifying goddess. And Pallas Athena seized the reins and whip, lashing the racing horses straight at Ares. The god was just stripping giant Periphas bare, the Aetolians' best fighter, Ochesius' noble son. The blood-smeared Ares was tearing off his gear. But Athena donned the dark helmet of death, so not even stock Ares could see her now. So, the dark helmet of death. The helm of Hades! This is the same thing. This helm, the word being kaini, essentially made its wearer invisible. It was attributed to Hades. It's actually believed, why is this attributed to Hades? Like, why Hades specifically? Well, it's because his Greek name is Aides, which was thought to mean the unseen one. And it comes from the two root words of a, meaning not, and id, meaning see. So, not seen. The not seen one, if you will. Hence, this helm is always associated with Hades. Now, granted, there are other wearers of the helm of Hades. Other wearers would include, obviously, here, Athena. Hermes has donned it, obviously, of course, very famously. It was very briefly lent to the hero Perseus, who was lent the helm in order to defeat the Gorgon Medusa, which, obviously, the Gorgon we have also previously mentioned because it was part of the whole getup that Athena donned. It was said to have been forged by the Uranian Cyclopes, those original three Cyclops, alongside Zeus's Thunderbolt and Poseidon's Trident, in order to help the Olympians win the Titanomachia. Obviously it did. And the big thing is, this doesn't just make you invisible to other humans, even the gods cannot see you. She's like, I put this on, even Ares can't see me. So that's a hella powerful helmet. But the butcher did see Tydeus' rugged son, and he dropped gigantic Periphas on the spot where he just killed him, ripped his life away, and Ares whirled at the stallion-breaking Diomedes, the two of them closing fast, charging face to face, and the god thrust first over Tydides' yoke and reins, with bronze spear burning to take the fighter's life. But Athena, her eyes afire, grabbed the flying shaft, flicked it over the car, and off it flew, for nothing. And after him Diomedes yelled his war cry, lunging out with his own bronze spear, and Pallas rammed it home, deep in Ares' bowels where the belt cinched him tight. There Diomedes aimed and stabbed. He gouged him down, his glistening flesh, and wrenched the spear back out, and the brazen god of war let loose a shriek, roaring, thundering loud as 10,000 combat soldiers shriek with Ares' fury when massive armies clash. A shudder swept through all ranks, Trojans and Argives both, terror-struck by the shriek the god let loose, Ares whose lust for slaughter never dies. But now, wild as a black cyclone twisting out of a cloud bank, building up from the day's heat, blasts and towers, so brazen Ares looked to Tydeus' son Diomedes. Soaring up with the clouds to the broad sweeping sky, he quickly gained the gods' stronghold, steep Olympus, and settling down by the side of Cronus' great son Zeus, his spirit racked with pain, Ares displayed the blood, the fresh immortal blood that gushed from his wound, and burst out in a flight of self-pity. Father Zeus, aren't you incensed to see such violent, brutal work? We everlasting gods, what chilling blows we suffer, thanks to our own conflicting wills. Whenever we show these mortal men some kindness, we all must battle. You brought that senseless daughter into the world, that murderous curse, forever bent on crimes. While the rest of us, every god on Olympus bows down to you, each of us overpowered. But that girl, you never block her away with a word or action, never. You spur her on since you gave her birth from your own head, that child of devastation. So I'll briefly interrupt his big self-pitying, haranguing that he's doing of Zeus. Like, seriously, how well do you think Zeus is going to take this? Dad, you never yell at Athena. Literally, that's what he's doing. Obviously important, you spur her on since you gave her birth from your own head, that child of devastation. It's like, oh, what was that? I wasn't paying attention. I was watching my daughter absolutely slay. So obviously we know the most common mythological tradition of Athena's birth claims that Metis conceived a daughter with Zeus, but Gaia had prophesied that should Metis bear Zeus a son, that son would dethrone Zeus the same way that Zeus had dethroned Cronus, in the same way that Cronus had dethroned Ouranos. So Zeus played a little game and ended up swallowing Metis whole, and sometime later he's apparently seized by this raging headache. So Hephaestus grabs an axe, splits open Zeus' skull, and out pops Athena, fully grown, wearing armor and shit that her mom had made for her. That was the headache he was having. But yes, literally Ares is complaining, Dad, why don't you ever get mad at Athena? Look what she did. Like, Dad. And Zeus is like, I literally could care less. Just look at this reckless Diomedes now. Athena spurred him on to rage against the gods. First, he lunged at Aphrodite, stabs her hand at the wrist, then charges me, even me, like something superhuman. But I'm so fast on my feet, I saved my life. Else for a good long while I'd have felt the pain writhing among the corpses there. Or soldiered on, reek as a breathless ghost beaten down by bronze. But Zeus, who marshals storm clouds, lowered a dark glance and let loose at Ares. No more, you lying, two-faced. No more sidling up to me, whining here before me. You. I hate you most of all the Olympian gods. Always dear to your heart, strife, yes, and battles, the bloody grind of war. You have your mother's uncontrollable rage. Incorrigible, that Hera. Say what I will, I can hardly keep her down. Hera's urgings, I trust, have made you suffer this. But I cannot bear to see you agonize so long. You are my child. To me, your mother bore you. If you had sprung from another god, believe me, and grown into such a blinding devastation, long ago you'd have dropped below the Titans deep in the dark pit. Which is like, damn. You said, fuck off, you're my kid, but God, I hate you. That's rough, buddy. That's rough, buddy. But damn. Dad has no time for him. So great Zeus declared and ordered the healing god to treat the god of war. And covering over his wound with pain-killing drugs, the healer cured him. The god was never born to die. Quickly as fig juice pressed into bubbly, creamy milk curdles it firm for the man who churns it round, so quickly he healed of the violent rushing Ares. And Hebe washed him clean, dressed him in robes to warm his heart, and flanking the son of Cronus down he sat, Ares exultant in the glory of it all. Which is, again, this is the thing about Ares. He screams, he whines, he cries, he bitches, and then once you heal him, which of course happens like that, it's literally instant. He's then just like, I don't know what everybody's making a big fuss about. He then goes back to being himself. There is no development in the character. Again, the gods will never develop in terms of like personality or, you know, feeling like they develop as characters the way that like humans do. Because again, they don't die. There's no consequence to anything they do. So it's like, why does Ares ever have to learn his lesson? Because he's never really being taught a lesson by the mortals. And now the two return to the halls of mighty Zeus, Hera of Argos, Boeotian Athena, guard of armies. Both had stopped the murderous Ares' cutting men to pieces. And a bonk. Rip Ares. Yeah, rip Ares' ego. Is Aphrodite the only Olympian who likes Ares? Yeah, basically. Like, I always say it. I'm like, dude, also, does she like him? Or does she like his dick? Granted, I mean, again, there's this belief that erotic love, and desire and the sort of bloodlust of war, I mean, it's really desire, come from the same feeling. This desire can spring both the desires for, you know, glories of the flesh and glories of war. So maybe that's why they get along so well, but yeah. What about Hera? No, not really. Even Hera just sort of goes, yeah, no, you embarrass me. Hera is not impressed by Ares. She's just like, take a screenshot and highlight the line. I was just saying he hates Ares. I mean, it is brutal. Like, up comes Ares, whining and complaining, and he's just like, I fucking hate you. I mean, and think of how that's different from how he treats Aphrodite after she gets wounded. Now, granted, she goes and complains to Dione, and Dione is like, honey, I love you, and I know you're upset. You're not the first god to get wounded by a mortal. Suck it up. It's not that big a deal. Like, she's basically assuaging Aphrodite, saying, it's not that big a deal. It's okay. It happens all the time. It's not that, you're fine. You're fine. Like, don't be so dramatic. You're okay. You'll be fine. By the way, don't forget that people who attack the gods usually don't live long. So, you know, there's that. Keep that in mind. And there's Ares going, Dad, oh my God, I got hurt. I mean, it probably didn't help that he blamed Athena, like maybe, and all of that. I was like, maybe you should have, even if he hadn't mentioned Athena, Zeus is just like, I fucking hate you, but you're my kid, so just go get healed. It's like, if you weren't my kid, I'd have literally thrown you in Tartarus. But this is reflecting the kind of, if you think how I turn you back to that introductory session we did of like stuff that's going to come up in the Iliad. And one thing that's really big is this sort of dichotomous attitude towards war, where they're like, it's this horrible, hateful, terrible thing. And that's Ares. He's the horrible, hateful aspect of war. But then we see Athena, when she's with Diomedes, we're like, fuck yeah, let's go. Like, that's the sort of part where people who participate in it cannot deny that there is something like an almost euphoria you feel when your blood gets up. So, yeah, I mean, and that's sort of what you get here. And then that's why Ares is kind of the way that he is, why Athena is kind of the way that she is. And so, I mean, I do find it funny the way he's like, man, you've got your mother's temper, which, I mean, Hera is known to have a pretty quick temper. But in this case, it's the way he says, like Hera, like uncontrollable Hera. Like, to me, it's such a little aside. He's like, man, I never can say no to her. Like, damn. But God, he hates Ares. Question because it's eating at me. Are siblings and lovers correct? Yes. No, that's related. Yes. Obviously, in Homer follows the mythic tradition that they are both children of Zeus. Now, Aphrodite is a daughter of Dione, and Ares is a son of Hera. So different mothers, both fathered by Zeus in the Homeric tradition. Of course, again, parentage of various figures will have different mythological traditions. I mean, we went through Aphrodite's, like who is Dione? We had ask 4 different writers. They'll all give you different answers. Hating Ares is one of the, being disappointed and disgusted by Ares is definitely one of the few things they agree on. They're just and at the end of the day, our son fucking sucks. God, our son fucking sucks. It is really funny. They're but our daughter Hebe, we do love her. It's that's true. Hebe does no wrong, but Hebe basically just hangs out. She doesn't really do all that much. She just hangs out, and then she gets to marry Heracles once he's, ascended and had his apotheosis. He's not the only legit heir. If you go by the Homeric tradition, Hephaestus is also, you would say, an heir. But they don't even have the idea of heirs, because you don't die. To have your heir is the person who's going to take over when you die. But the gods don't die. They just have tons of children. Never really an heir. No, it's not a modern source. River, I would encourage you to go back to earlier in this book club. We discussed how Dione is the mother of Aphrodite in the Homeric tradition. When we talk about Dione, it's earlier in this video. Could that be why Zeus keeps cheating on Hera? Because the son they produced together was such a disappointment? No, that's not why. No, he's I must, that's not why. It has nothing to do with who their children are, because he's got plenty of human children who are fucking disappointments too. Look at Tantalus. Yeah, no, so that's not it. Shinkal, I'm gonna answer your question, but in future, if this is something you want me to answer, please use the hand raising emoji so that I know. She doesn't hate Athena. They are on the same side right now. They are on the same side. They are both anti-Troy, anti-Aphrodite, because they got spurned by Paris. They were just whether or not we always get along, we are teamed up in this one, and they are staunch allies in this one. And honestly, Hera never really does seem to hate Athena. She's don't love it, but it's already there. Yeah, in general, though. Just in general, no. She never really seems to have beef with Athena. She doesn't really... And it might just be because Metis was already there first. Could be part of it. Also, she just gets born from Zeus's head, so, who knows? There's no real explanation. She never really has an issue with Athena. There's just one where she's she sort of pays no attention to her more than anything else. Plus, Athena is cool and Hera recognizes it. Maybe. Yeah, no, that's a valid question, because she's so infamous for hating all of these children that Zeus has with other women. But she really does seem to have, no issue with Athena. Maybe it's just because, granted, Athena as a goddess doesn't usually often cause, shenanigans, and just kind of does her own thing. Is mostly just involved with heroes. That's oftentimes what she's usually doing down there, or helping to defend the gods in other ways. They did team up for the attempted coup. Of course, Athena didn't get punished. Hilarious. But yeah, no, it is kind of interesting how she never seems to have an issue with Athena. Ever. She couldn't even fuck with Metis. Granted, again, Zeus swallowed Metis. Just sort of shake my head. She's not from a cheating affair, I guess. You're in the weeds there. Kinda, yeah. I don't think that's it. It's just for some reason they've just never had them be at odds. Doesn't have really. I mean, she still has room to complain. It really doesn't matter. She can complain because she's the queen. She has the right to complain. She's like, you made me your primary wife, your queen. What the fuck? Because he claims like, oh, but I married all these other women, and she's like, I don't give a fuck. I do not give a fuck. Metis. I mean, interactions between Hera and Metis, we don't really know beyond the Titanomachia. Maybe that has to do with it. I don't know. Really, there's no good answer I can give you. I think mostly it's just you sort of have to maybe wonder and speculate, but it's kind of hard because, again, the gods don't always follow what we would call maybe logical human thought because they're not human. So it's like, whatever reasons, you just sort of shrug and go, I don't know. But yeah, in this case specifically, she's like, yeah, we're on the same team. We are staunch allies. I mean, again, Hera's like, I'll try. She's like, get in the car, sweetie. We're going fighting. It's literally what she does, rolling up with the, pimp my ride chariot, drives, says, Zeus, we're going to go cause, she goes, look, Ares is being a shithead. We're causing problems. You got a problem? He's like, have at it. Have fun. First wife, I think she was named Metis. His first wife, again, who was his first wife? Depends on who you read. The order of things always depends on who you read. You don't need to feel bad for Metis. Metis just chills. Metis does whatever the fuck she wants. Most of the time, these gods and these goddesses, like, they kind of do their own thing. They're not always involved with each other, because also there's so many of them. Oh, it's not just with humans. I mean, look at Leto. He screws around with Leto, and she's pissed. She's pissed. I mean, she makes it so Leto endures this horrifically long labor in order to give birth to Apollo and Artemis. So no, it is not just when he, fools around with mortals. It's when he fools around, period. I'm gonna go beat up Ares. You wanna come, Athena? Say less. Again, I know that we're done, but if you have any questions that you want me to answer, please put your hand up. Do the hand up emoji just so I know. Like, I am looking, but it's helpful that I know that, like, this is a question you genuinely want me to try to answer. Whether or not I can, different thing. Yeah, I need your help. I can't tell you what it is. You can't ask any questions, and we're gonna hurt Ares, whose chariot we taken. Literally. I mean, those two are thick as thieves through the Trojan War. Hera and Athena are just like, absolutely fuck them up. Fuck them up. They are so ready to watch the downfall. It's kind of hilarious. It's incredible, actually. But I just love that image of Hera being like, Hebe, get the good chariot! Like, breaking out this, like, pimp my ride chariot that's insane, like, deck it out, and then she's like, Athena, let's go! It's just such a funny image in a good way, because you're just like, you go, girls! Is Metis giving Zeus wisdom? I mean, if he were to ask for it, Metis is doing her own thing. If he wants to ask Metis a question, she'd answer. She's not, like, hanging out in a jar, like, always answering his questions. No, she's just around. Ares is Joe Pesci's. Oh, trust me, typos get me all day, every day, I feel ya. Never say they didn't master the art of pettiness. Shared epithets. How many are there, and with gods is it cross-domain? I don't quite know what you mean with cross-domain, but shared epithets. It depends. There's a lot of epithets that can be used for multiple, either mortals, sometimes even gods, and they're often usually descriptor epithets, like shining, whatever. In some cases, it usually has to do with a specific area of, like, expertise. Like, are they divorced technically? No, they're not. There's none of the gods, like, divorce each other. It's not really a thing. I don't even know if... Greeks maybe potentially had a sort of idea of divorce, but that's not what's going on here. With The crossed epithets, I don't know exactly how many there are, but it's usually like very specifically in domain. Like the whole idea of Pion, the healer reference being shared between these three gods, well, they all relate to something very specific that Pion is related to, whether it be healing or the use of pharmaca. So that's why it ends up shared between them. And also the healing power of the sun and all of that jazz. So I don't know exactly how many there are. And they're very specific. Did Metis get out of so many things? Did she end up stuck in there? I don't think she ends up... Yeah, you both basically asked the same question. She does her own thing. She's not a major player in the mythology post the Titanomachia and Athena's birth. Like, those are the two big stories she shows up in. Beyond that, she just sort of does whatever. As far as I know, I don't think she stays in his head. I think she just sort of goes off, but... We don't, there's not a lot of writing of her kind of beyond that. She's invoked for certain things, like the idea of metis, your cunning, your craft. But the actual goddess doesn't usually get talked about too much. Shared or descriptions or very specific overlaps. That's what it seems, from what I have read, mind you. There are only so many of them. I mean, you see more of the shared epithets with stuff like the mortals, so like tons of them being called breaker of horses or stallion breaking, lords of the war cry, like all of these, which are often, these are shared really among mortals. You see that crossover all the time because these epithets are usually being used as descriptors more than anything else, and it relates to the person in particular. Classical Greece, and if you say classical Greece, it would depend on what city-state you're in, because they were countries unto themselves, which all had different laws. So, yeah. I mean, I know, for example, I was reading a paper that had to do with a lot of we talked about it, the epithets of Paris. Now, he's got like a shit ton of epithets for both his names, because he's called Paris and Alexandros. And the ones that are used for Alexandros are shared amongst like tons of other heroes, because they're all just sort of descriptors of like he's good looking, basically. And then all of the ones for Paris are like super specific to Paris and never used for other heroes. And they're all about how like he's a man of low moral character, he does terrible shit, which honestly it's really amusing. But there isn't that much from what I can understand when I'm thinking of gods specifically, there's not that much overlap. And they're like really specific. And I don't think it's that often. More often with the mortals to see the overlap. Yeah. No, that's fine. Yeah. Because sometimes they seem to function like title. Well, with the mortals especially. Sometimes they function like titles. Like Tydides' son, Diomedes. Like you could say Tydides' son is almost like an epithet. Well, that's very specific. He's a son of Tydeus. But like titles, that usually goes with the gods. Like that's sort of a descriptor title that they get. Again, epithets can hold different meanings and different uses dependent upon the situation. It's very difficult to sort of like blanket describe things. Has his own cap of invisibility. Their name Autolycus. No, he had the ability to like hide himself, and it's not a cap or a helm. He just has the ability to do it. And that's some later traditions linking as part of him being a really good thief, linking him with Hermes. So no, it's not an object. Am I forgetting something above? Huh? Closest you come to divorce, demanding his dowry back. That's not divorce though. He's just like, this man has shamed me. And so has she. So I deserve to be compensated for it. But he's not saying she's no longer my wife. So that's not divorce. And that's among the gods. You can't really translate that to the humans. And again, remember, the Odyssey and the Iliad are literally 3 different historical ages wrapped together in a trench coat. It's not a clear reflection just of the Bronze Age. It's not a clear reflection of just the Dark Age, nor is it a clear reflection of just the early Archaic Age. It's bits and pieces of all 3 that have been passed down through folk memory, wrapped in a trench coat. And the gods are also always existing as their own weird special outlier cases. Eating melon seeds. It is true. We all hate Paris in the House of the Pecanots. Except for Mariana, who just pities him, which I think is equally fair. Do I pity him because he's so pathetic? There's an element of me who just goes, he really is so pathetic. But I also hate him. He makes me viscerally angry. not just that, I mean, if you believe in the idea of Homer as the person who wrote this down, that like if this story is first being told in kind of the Bronze Age going into the collapse, it keeps getting told for centuries and by different singers. So like it'll adjust depending on who's who. And so did Homer just like have collate different versions? Again, this is where we get into the argument of the Homeric question. I don't want to delve, that is weeds I don't want to delve into because it's just too big an argument and nobody really agrees. The general view is obviously, of course, that this is part of the idea of the oral tradition and how stories can develop. But obviously this is a story that is taking folk memory from the Bronze Age and has started there because, you know, telling stories obviously would have happened there and has just continued on through the centuries. So it's got even as memories of certain things fade. Pity for me doesn't mean that, like, I therefore absolve him. I pity him because he is pathetic. I'm like, God, it just sucks to be you. I can pity you for that. Hate you. But I have pity for how pathetic you are and how maybe once upon a time, way back when, there might have been hope for you. This is where you get to that whole argument of how much does fate and free will and the will of Zeus, like, play together and all of that. And I'll be like, yeah, but he still made choices and he's still a dick. I have a pity for maybe the person he could have been. The dartboard. Oh, yeah. No, book 6. Yeah, speaking of book 6. We're going to read Paris for filth once again. He's getting ripped a new asshole by Hector and by Helen. Like, it's going to be delicious. And you're just going to really dislike him again. This is our second of 3, yeah, this will be our second of 3 times we have Helen show up in the narrative, because we're not going to see her again until the funeral of Hector, I believe. So this is her next big moment to kind of shine, and ooh, she rips him a new asshole verbally. It's so nice. No, I mean, and that's fair. Again, I'm not going to judge anybody who's just like, fuck him, there's nothing redeemable. I mean, I don't really think there's much redeemable about it. I don't think there's anything redeemable about him either. But I still can pity, like, almost how pathetic he is. It is almost like, it's sad in that it's so pathetic. But there's no love lost between me and Paris. I genuinely despise him. I can feel both. And next time on Dragon Ball Z, Paris is still a massive loser. Yes. I mean, is he a victim? No. He makes a choice. He has a choice presented to him. He makes his choice. And to me, it's the fact that he chooses something where he doesn't care about other people in any way, shape, or form. Which, yes, it's a very self-centered society, but that one in particular just felt like, really? That's the one you chose? Okay, I see what your values are. You thought with your dick and nothing else. Got it. Yeah, almost pity him because he's so pathetic. I mean, he couldn't just return Helen. Once he had Helen, once he took Helen, once he had accepted Aphrodite's offer and all that, like, he can't and won't. I mean, he won't return Helen is really part of it. As for the other Trojans in the situations, they can't. They're like, shit, that's a gift from Aphrodite, we'll piss off gods. Like, we're in a fucked up situation. Paris... Yes, he can't, but also he really actively won't. Because he's like, I'm just a puppet of the gods. Which I'm like, there's a part, from an academic standpoint, it's a fascinating examination because it does seem that like nobody's kind of, prior to Homer, had ever really thought to wonder, like, what does it mean for someone to know they're a puppet of the gods and just sort of embrace that? I mean, it's a unique viewpoint. I still hate him. It's very much the cool story, bro, still a murder. I still just hate him. So, like, academically, I can find him interesting. And I'm like, no, I want to kill him. I hate him. Yeah, exactly. Like, I can find characters, like, despicable, but, like, if they're really interesting to analyze from certain points, I'm like, ooh, but I want to read more about you. Like, again, I read a bunch of stuff on Paris, and I was like, I fucking hate this guy, but this shit's fucking interesting. Weaponized incompetence. Absolutely. He's walking weaponized incompetence. I mean, the sad part is, you're given these moments where it seems like he might have actually, you know, he clearly has Alexandros, this sort of former name that he had. Like, there was something about him where there was potential. But that potential just goes down the drain. Given the beginning of the Odyssey, where Zeus makes a point about mortals blaming the gods, is that maybe Homer countering Paris' fatalistic mentality? Or big a puppet masters as he thinks? Well, is it that they're not puppet masters, or is it also the idea goes, humans will do as humans do? He's like, they always blame us. Humans are the ones who still do stupid shit time and time again. I would see it more as a long form view versus a short form view, or long term versus short term. Like, Zeus has obviously been alive for however many centuries, millennia, whatever. He exists, we'll say, and he's going to continue to exist. So for him, it's just fucking frustrating because he's seen the cycles repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat. As we say, human nature is not so new as we think. Right? I mean, part of why even these stories have existed for thousands of years and they've survived is it's just like the same fucking sentiments may be presented differently. Maybe they didn't, you know, have all this psychoanalysis as we do, but it's just like people still doing stupid shit even 3,000 years ago. And they're having the same feelings. They're doing the same fucking shit all over again. You know, time is a flat circle kind of shit. Versus Paris, who's just living in the moment. He is in the moment. He's not thinking ahead. He's not thinking behind. He's rather like Agamemnon in that way. I mean, Agamemnon is very thinking only in the here and now. I would again also argue, I think Agamemnon is going through a mental health crisis throughout most of the Iliad. And I think the first 4 books set you up to show you that. But Paris clearly is kind of nihilistic and fatalistic. It's like, it doesn't matter. The gods decide everything anyway. So maybe you could argue it's sort of a counter to that idea that's presented, but at the same time, prophecies still come true in the Odyssey and in the Iliad. But again, that's why I say all of these things exist uncomfortably together. Paris made a choice, is unwilling to change because he likes the results of his choice. He's fatalistic at his station, not to choose man. Sure, but also then there's the whole thing of he is foreshadowed, he's prophesied to be the downfall of Troy before he's born, and then guess what? He is the downfall of Troy. It's like, is the universe coalescing to make this happen? Again, this is where we get into really big arguments, and there's not really a right or wrong answer, because you can make the argument all the different ways. And that's what I find so fascinating about Homer is, again, these philosophical irreconcilables, all of these uncomfortable, you know, contrasting ideas that are all butting heads against each other and existing together at the same time. So it's still just like, damn, you can't always clear cut say yes or no, because it's like, oh, but what if? And we're going to get a point later on. I think it's when Achilles battles Hector. We're going to make a point that shows the power of Zeus in this situation, where there is a prophecy out there. We know who's going to win and who's going to lose, but he's like, I could change it. And he literally sits there like holding the possibilities, literally like personified in his hands, and then decides not to do anything. So again, it's really fascinating the way they look at fate and mortal free will and the will of Zeus, which does exist like its own thing. I think if you were a racist prince, he might have made different choices. No, I don't think so. Because even so, it's like the most beautiful woman on earth will be, living woman will be yours. That has nothing to do with being a prince or not. Right? That's just thinking with your dick. Versus what he's offered by the others, where even if he were a prince, what he's offered by Hera and Athena is even more than what he would have had as a prince of Troy. And even if he were raised a prince of Troy, like, those are unimaginable bonuses and like things that he's being offered. So it's like all 3 things have value. It just depends on what you value more. Are heroes the ones who stand out amidst the crush of human nature? What do you mean by stand out amidst the crush of human nature? They often very much follow it. Exemplify it even. I mean, it's why so many times the heroes do things that are so fucking stupid. Are still considered heroes in many ways. I mean, Oedipus is still the hero who solved the riddle of the Sphinx, and then his hubris gets the better of him. And you have Oedipus Tyrannus. I mean, Theseus is still the hero who slayed the Minotaur. He also does a lot of stupid shit. Jason is still the hero who led the Argonauts and is the journey of the Golden Fleece and all of that shit. Still does stupid shit. They're still heroes. then they'll still be considered great fighters and all of that, but they'll still do really stupid things. In a way, human nature, it doesn't matter who you are, it's still human nature. Right? And even if you know how your story will end, yeah, you can't, doesn't mean you can't choose how to write the middle of it, which is sort of what Achilles is doing here at Troy. Like, he knows that. He's like, I'm going to die here at Troy. I came here to die, but before I die, I'm going to blaze a path of fucking glory. And by glory, I mean I'm going to kill a fuck ton of people. Take a fuck ton of slaves. Like, that's his goal. It's the only reason he's here. Which, it's not like he wasn't the only one like that, but for so often I see Achilles romanticized, and I'm like, you guys all understand he did not have to go to war. He rolled up so he could kill people and take people as war prizes and then die. It's the only reason he's here. And then he makes it everybody's fucking problem when he feels insulted. Everyone's problem, including his own side. He's like, fuck my own side. Agamemnon insulted me? All the Greeks should suffer for this. I have a little sympathy for Achilles. Again, I find him academically fascinating. I still want to bitch slap him. Ah, the lion in winter is so good. Yeah, I'm gonna die, but I'm sending a welcoming party ahead of me. Very much so. Heracles, I mean, he gives into this kind of uncontrollable wrath-like madness, which later Greeks, when they're describing it, it does almost seem to be some sort of like post-ictal epileptic psychosis. Like the way his fits of madness are described, especially by later tragedians, it really fits with what sounds like a really bad epileptic fit. And given him, and you can look at all the different views, and given epilepsy was for the longest time called like the divine disease, and it was, you know, it's very interesting their attitudes towards stuff like this. So yeah, but even, yeah, again, even Heracles, the guy, he's not perfect. None of these guys are perfect, but that's because they're human. Humanity can't be perfect. Medea? I don't love Medea. Like, she's fine. I don't hate her. I think murdering your own children is fucking much. And doing it just to spite your husband is even worse. I'm like, what the fuck did the kids do? They didn't do anything. And then she starts trying to pull shenanigans in Athens with Theseus' dad, and it's kind of weird. And I'm like, look, Athena, I mean, also, Medea's the one who gets the idea, let's murder my brothers and chop up their bodies. So then my dad has to search for them, and that way we can get away. I'm like, girl! That's her idea. Nobody gives her that idea. She comes up with that idea on her own. And it's like, oh my fucking God. What in the fuck? What in the actual fuck? It's insane. She's a little too cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs for me. I'm like, that's a bit much, guys. Especially when you consider how so many male characters in the mythology get exiled and like in a lot of trouble for kinslaying. I mean, shit, look at the House of Atreus bloodline. Good God. I mean, part of why Achilles' dad, Peleus and Telamon, who were siblings, so yes, Achilles and Telamonian Ajax, are cousins. Their fathers are exiled from their homes, you know, their ancestral seat, if you will, because I'm pretty sure they killed like a half-brother or a cousin or uncles or something. They killed somebody. And like kinslaying was taken pretty seriously. So she's a few screws loose then. Is she a few screws loose, or is she just brutal? I don't think she's insane. I mean, it seems like insane behavior because it's brutal behavior. I think she's terrifying. I'm not somebody who sits there and goes, you go, Medea, everything you say is right. I'm like, no, fuck no, that's fucked up. I don't think she's crazy though. There's a perfect, or at least almost perfect Greek hero. Yeah, Heracles. If you want the epitome of the Greek hero, it's Heracles. That's why we call him the guy. He is the epitome epitome of the Greek hero. All the way down to how his name breaks down. He's the epitome of the Greek hero. Brutally pragmatic. I mean, how is murdering your children pragmatic? That's the thing. I'm like, there's no reason to do that. There's no reason. None. She could have fucked back off to like Circe's Island. Well, maybe not Circe's Island. She could have fucked back off somewhere else with her kids. It's just like, how is that pragmatic? I just think she's brutal and she's ferocious. And again, there can be parts of that maybe you go, wow, that's interesting. Again, I find her fascinating. I don't sit there and go, I support everything she does. I'm like, no, I don't. I think the murdering of the brothers and chopping up their bodies and scattering the body parts, really fucked up. That's fucked up. Killing your brothers, again, that's bad, but like they're chasing you. Okay, fine, one thing. Desecrating the bodies? No reason for it. It's fucked up. Your father was gonna have to stop and hold funeral games already. Why put him on a fucking scavenger hunt for his son's bodies? That's messed up. Killing your children, fucking messed up. Again, that's where I'm like, I get that she was made to, fall in, like become infatuated with Jason. That's one thing. But that means some of this was lurking in there already. That's messed up. The original myth. The original myth. Ooh, never say the original myth. There is no, original myth. So, I'm just saying the original myth, there's no such thing. The original myth was not written down, so nobody has the original myth. Important distinction. I'm just saying. In a myth, yes. Well, there's one where she buried them alive. So there's one. And seemed to think that for some reason they wouldn't die. Again, there's lots of different versions. They're scattered across fragments, across scholia and everything else. So it's why there's often a game of pick your poison, but you still have to acknowledge the existence of the other versions, right? It's like, as much as I hate the telegony, I can't act like it doesn't exist. In a version of the myth, I believe the people of Corinth are blamed. I don't remember if it's specifically stoning, but I believe they are blamed. But that's not the only version. It's not even the most predominant version, which is also important to note.